Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people.
Boiler room. Inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes, lurkers and regulars, welcome to another edition of the Boiler Room. We are live here at alternatecurrentradio.com, and this is quite possibly the final meeting of the Social Rejects Club for 2024. And we're out there live streaming on our website, alternatecurrentradio.com. We're streaming live audio via Spreaker. This may be the Boiler Room's last rodeo on Spreaker for a live audio feed. Never fear, we'll still have the archives and the podcast uploads and the majority of that functionality. But as I mentioned last week, Spreaker, we have cherished that little embed that you've provided for our live audio streams. You've been the audio backbone of Alternate Current Radio since 2014. And it's been amazing. We're disappointed that the live feature is going away, but you got to do what you got to do. And we will endeavor to find a new embed that we can platform our live audio feed. But many of you are out there nowadays watching us on Rockfin, watching us on X, watching us on Rumble, and sometimes, including tonight, watching us on YouTube. So, we're kind of off and on into bigger and better things as well, Spreaker, and hopefully we can continue the archival and podcast upload relationship. We'll see how that goes. That may or may not continue to be our platform once we establish a new live streaming audio embed for our show posts. But hello to everybody at X, YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin tonight. And this is it. So we survived 2024. Oh, by the way, I'm your host. My call sign is Hesher. That's what people call me around here. I'm Brian McLean on behalf of Spore and the rest of us at Alternate Current Radio. I hope you had a great holiday. Hope the Christmas holiday was great. And hope everybody is looking forward to 2025. Great things coming in 2025. Hopefully, at the very least, there will be a lot for us to talk about. We're going to have a lot of work coming up in 2025. But yeah, we survived 2024. We didn't get swept away in nuclear warfare. We didn't get abducted by aliens, did we? I don't know. We kept ACR alive somehow, alive and kicking through one of the most hectic years we've ever had by the skin of our teeth. Big thanks to the people that are patrons, anyone who's bought any merch from the store, donated to our swear jar, whatever. Big thanks to members of our family, Badger, big shout out to Badger, Randy J, Infidel Pharaoh. So many people have stepped up and helped ACR out and shown their support. Too many for me to name right now. That's just a few. William, big thank you to William. I would forget someone if I tried to name everybody, but that's a few of them right there. Creative Accidents, Timmer, a lot of people have really helped us out since Ruckus and I have gone solo from TNT while TNT has been rebranding. It's been tight around here, so we wouldn't have made it without all you folks. And Spore, big shout out to Spore. Spore has always worked really hard to help me keep this ship afloat. But we did it. We survived 2024. We're looking forward to 2025 being a smoother year, perhaps. I don't know. Some are saying financial collapse and cyber polygon, and we know what all the threat vectors are, but let's wait and see here. Got a lot done this year. Hosted and produced and wrapped 52 boiler rooms in 2024. That's right up there with our goal of doing one show a week pretty much, and produced 36 Sunday wires and hosted and co-hosted a number of those with Ruckus and Basil and others. Finished my 2.5-year tenure at Today's News Talk, topping out with 728 hours of on air and almost and I don't even know how many interviews this year alone. And let's see, worked from January to August, mid-August, almost 300 hours of live television news on TNT, and approximately 700 to 800 interviews in those 300 hours. That's Monday through Friday, prepping and performing between 6 and 9 interviews a day. I'm pretty proud of that. Well over 100,000 Spreaker downloads, over 20,000 live listens on Spreaker, and those numbers are majorly nerfed. Can't prove it, but take my word for it. Those numbers are nerfed. They're actually much bigger. We tracked and busted much propaganda accurately across topics. We stood up alongside so many of you that watch and listen to Boiler Room against the atrocious genocide in Gaza. We got a lot accomplished on the family front here. Moved a family member out of California, upgraded his life and retirement experience. That was monumental for us. And, we made great strides on getting caught up on the website. That needed a lot of work, and Ruckus has been working tirelessly on that. And so have I. So we're doing some big upgrades there, filling out the back catalog and all that. So that's going to be available for everybody soon. I hit my firearms training goal for the year, which was to meet or exceed 10,000 rounds spent at the range. Pretty proud of that one too. I fell short last year. And the amount of adversity that most of us have navigated throughout 2024 is a tome too big to open right now. But I want to give a big shout out to all my colleagues navigating the media environment. Those of you out there that watch and participate in that environment. It's a very brave endeavor in these shark-infested waters, as Ruckus would say. Many of us have been through some trials and tribulations this year, professional, personal, health-wise, and more. So I know many of our friends and families and listeners can relate to that as well, because many of you are kind enough to share your experience with us. So I just want to thank everybody and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So let's get into it. Let's welcome everybody to the show here. We've got Daniel Spaulding joining us once again. Daniel, welcome back to the Boiler Room.
Hello, it's good to be here right up at the end of the year.
Yeah, man. Last one for the year, unless something crazy happens between now and the 1st. Our next episode will probably be on the 1st. So maybe a New Year's Day will be the next Boiler Room, and that'll be next Wednesday. But it's great to have you with us, Daniel. All right, let's welcome Infidel Pharaoh to the stage. Infidel, what's up, dude? Welcome to the Boiler Room. Last one for 2024. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. 2024, goodbye. 2025, here we come.
Yeah. Pretty excited about 2024 coming to a close, actually. I feel like it's, the election's behind us. The whole thing, this whole cycle of the last 4 years, man. Like, even if the next cycle is like not good for whatever reasons, I'm just happy this phase is closing.
Yeah. 2024 was a rough year for me personally, but I'm hoping for the best in 2025. I'm pretty excited for what comes.
Same, man. I don't want to speak for anyone else, any other social rejects or boiler roomers, but I think a number of us are feeling the same way about this year. Glad it's over. Choppy waters. Let's move on.
Yeah. And we got the Trump presidency starting.
Yep.
So we'll see what comes out.
Yep. One of my favorite bands in the whole world is reforming and reuniting, Nevermore. Oh my God, dude, that made my year pretty much when I heard that news this morning, late last night. So all you
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with them, but I'll check them out.
Yeah, man. Everybody go get the Nevermore catalog and start digesting it, because they are going to come back. Crazy story there. Tell you more about that on Heshen's session. Let's add Ruckus to the stage. Oh wait, he's just been taken over by robots. There's some sort of Cybertron. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's broken out of the robot batch. What's up, man? His fingers.
Gotta find the buttons. There we go. Howdy. Yeah, 2024. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's all I gotta say. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I don't know. What a year. Holy moly. It was well, I gotta say the first 3 quarters were exciting for me. Not the least of which because I actually received a paycheck. But yeah, the last quarter has been incredibly interesting, and that's not because I stopped receiving a paycheck, but because so much crazy shit started happening just in the last quarter of this year. Am I right? So yeah, looking forward to seeing what 2025 brings us. We still have approximately 20 days or so once the New Year's hits before we can all like take a collective sigh, at least until the next psyop, because January 20th, of course, is the inauguration of the next president, who happens to have been the previous president, if you can believe that. That's kind of weird. But yeah, so lots of strange things happening in the year ahead, but hopefully, luckily, I'm guessing anyways, it won't be the exact same strange shit from the year prior.
Yeah.
And that's always a good thing, right? That's true every time. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. There's this this window of potential skullduggery that we're still dealing with here between now and inauguration, and we're already being served up some fresh distractions and media toys to play with, and bits of outrage to cling to in the meantime. So, you know, who knows what's burbling beneath the surface of all that stupid fun stuff that we'll probably end up
There's
talking about.
There's a good chance that AI knows, Hesher.
Yeah, no kidding. It may be writing the script. It may be writing the simulation. This is getting to be
somebody quick check up on Cliff High's computer program. What does it say about 2025?
Right.
Or, the Bobby Vaga what was it? Nostradamus. What did he say? Quick.
Yeah, time to get the seeing stones out for sure. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, Spore's gonna be with us next week. She says hi to everybody. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Wait, we don't get to see Spore until next year?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Unbelievable. Unacceptable.
See you next year. But she did grab a couple icebreaker suggestions for us to chew on. So let's see here. This one.
Thanks for not slacking in that department, Spore. We love you.
Yeah.
Because we know you're busy.
That's right. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. This one, I believe Brian S. dropped us. Thank you, Brian. In the Discord, meet the besotted groupies sending love letters, commissary money, to the accused UnitedHealth CEO assassin, Luigi Mangione. Expected this one. Just been waiting for this one. This is like a like the natural born killers effect, right? Like, especially in the current day and age of like mommy bloggers and true crime being all the rage, right? So, the alleged United Healthcare CEO killer received more than 140 messages during his brief stint behind bars in Pennsylvania, including some from drooling groupies and adoring admirers. This is out of the New York Post. During his 10-day lockup at the Huntingdon State Correctional Institute in the Keystone State, Luigi Mangione received 54 emails, 87 physical letters, along with 163 deposits into his prison account, allowing him to buy snacks and other commissary items. Officials refused to say how much money the 26-year-old was sent or describe the contents of the letters, but here's a little like chunk of social media on this. You've got this young lady here. What does the year 2025 hold for you? And she's got little emojis of a police car and a guy lifting weights, apparently like him, strong. And then 2 emojis of a couple holding hands. And on her picture, her selfie, she wrote, "I just sent Luigi Mangione a letter. Does this mean we're gonna be together? So there you go. There you go. One admirer wrote, "Hey Luigi, I'm certain you've received countless messages from people all over the world. The internet is actually in love with you." Okay. So, and I think there was actually, yeah, there's a piece of video on this that might be worth seeing too. Here, let me bring this up.
I think the real question is not that murder, but it's the murder of the millions of Americans who die every year from our healthcare system. That's the question that we need to address.
But you're here. A man is now facing a death penalty for assassinating.
We don't know that. He's a suspect. That's all we know.
Okay.
That is
so
all
you
we
don't
know.
think
We have no evidence.
you don't think there's enough evidence?
That's not why I'm here.
Well,
I'm
you're
here to
here.
talk about the
There's-
injustices in the American healthcare industry.
Right. There's conflicting evidence. Okay. You're here. You're here in support of it.
I'm here to support change in the American healthcare system.
But your friend here who left, did you see the sign she's holding?
Yeah.
And it
Health
has the three.
Do you understand
Well,
where those three words are coming
Health
from, though?
Yes, I
over
do.
wealth.
But I'm talking to them. But my question
Okay, well, I'm
to
talking
you is,
to you, bro. It's all
those
free
three
speech
words
here.
were written on the bullets that were used in this
It's a
case,
reference.
in this murder.
It's a reference. It's a reference to a book from, I believe, 2010 called "Delay, Deny, Defend," about the injustices in the healthcare system.
All right.
Somebody get that person an extra vaccination stat. They're clearly worried about it.
What do you think, Infidel?
Well, okay. Number one, we all know the healthcare system in the U.S. is pretty shitty, and it's the whole system in U.S. is designed to keep you sick and then benefit from you being sick, right? So that's keep that aside. My point is, what is their solution now? Is they're just gonna go around and kill people, or like why are you like, cheering for a murderer?
Yeah,
Still, he's a murderer, right? If he's, he's innocent until proven guilty. But if he's found guilty, then why are you supporting him? But it seems with her stance, she's actually there to support his crime. That, you know what, there are a lot of injustice, so we're good that you killed that person.
Let me ask you this, Infidel. Do you think she stood behind Daniel Penny after he, accidentally killed someone while trying to restrain them from harming people on a subway?
No.
Of course not. It's about the ideology, right? So her ideology, if I had to guess, her ideology is one that is radicalized, probably Antifa oriented, and thinks that violence is an acceptable solution for a systemic or corporate or political problem.
That is correct, because that is what the media have done to a lot of people, which is that dehumanization effect, right? Is if someone you don't agree with or you think that they are doing harm, then we're going to dehumanize them, and it's okay to just wish on them whatever harm you can wish on them, including them being killed.
Yeah.
Which is not okay. That is not okay. This is not right.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, in the case of, Daniel Penny or what was the Austin guy, Daniel Perry, I would imagine that someone like that, and, there are good arguments to what she's saying, like she's actually, I would, like you said, there's so many problems with this system. We don't even need to open that book. That's a whole nother conversation. But again, going with the violence, and supporting someone like that, it's like, you just can't square that circle. Sorry, and I'm going to assume that's someone that would support gun control, Antifa style stuff, that whole black bloc sort of thing. Look at this. We've got Hrvoje Morić joining us. Hrvoje Morić, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's happening? Hello from Mexico.
Oh man, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Hrvoje! I love you, brother. What's up? Happy Christmas.
Doing all right. Happy Merry Christmas, New Year, all that.
Yeah, yay. Dude. Merry Christmas. How have you been?
This is a good question. I don't know. I haven't had time to think about that. Yeah, went to the beach for a week here in Mexico, and just I was in the process of editing my latest podcast with Richard Poe. I guess Richard will have to wait and get the message from Ruckus that you guys are doing a live stream. So this is the live.
I am humbled. If you pushed off a Richard Poe podcast for us, man. You're awesome.
Yeah,
it's huge.
So life is good.
That's good. That's good. So how do you feel about 2024 ending, man?
Good, but I guess 2025 looks like it's gonna suck even worse.
I wasn't gonna say
no, it's not. It's gonna be okay.
We're trying to remain positive over here, man. We're really working on it.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? Is there one thing in particular on your mind about 2025 encroaching?
The thing that's always on my mind is the algorithm ghetto. I can't get over this advance of this digital technocracy. I don't know if I was last time with you guys, but like a month or two ago, for the first time, they refused to renew my expired bank debit card here in Mexico. Because now they want to link your digital ID now to your bank. And I was Wired posted an article today that they're talking about how in the future you won't need a passport anymore. It's just going to be facial recognition and digital app. And I'm like, what if I want to travel without my phone? Like, I'm going to have a phone now, and so, but as you guys say, like, I feel things get worse, but nonetheless, we got to have a good attitude, going into it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at least like interested to see what the next phase is. Whatever this whole thing is, like in its totality, this move into the technocratic era. It's really interesting to watch it unfold. I mean, it's a little devastating when you're, a lover of freedom and stuff like that. But it sure is like living inside of a sci-fi movie sometimes.
So my sister in Egypt, her ID expired, her national ID expired, and somehow, like the bank today, shut down her bank account because now all the businesses, including banks, if your ID is expired, the government ID is expired, they don't deal with you, so they shut you down. She couldn't even access her debit card or anything.
Whoa.
She had to go renew the ID. But yes, to your point,
man,
that's where things are heading. Yes,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I was looking at Kuwait was ground zero. We're now in Kuwait. If you don't give up your biometrics, they freeze your bank accounts and government access to government services. Vietnam is now doing that, and so yeah. So
the thing is, like country like Egypt has always been suffering from what they call the parallel economy, which is a lot of cash is being dealt away from the government, where the government, it's almost as big as the actual economy. So the government wasn't having any of this, right? So they use this as a way to push everybody that they have to register for it so that they can generate more revenues. And now everything is controlled. So it's not necessarily for sinister, like, but they wanted to generate the revenue and they wanted to control it. So
I would argue that it's both.
It's both. Yes, it is both. Yeah.
They want that revenue and they want ultimately total control.
Well, they want to be able to shut you down when they want to shut you down, right?
Like Elon Musk, right? I mean, this is the rage yesterday, this infighting now in MAGA. And the other thing, I mean, Alex Jones, I've been talking about this for a long time. Did you guys see the tweet where he's promoting a North American Union? Basically, I'm like, what? It's like Greg Reese quit.
About the Trump buying Canada thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with kind of joining us as a 51st. I'm serious.
I read this book, by the way, for book lovers out there. Clive Cussler wrote a novel. It was like the third or fourth book he ever wrote, which was very similar to the plot of America reacquiring Canada.
It will be the third biggest state after California, and from economy standpoint, after California and New York. So
Canada, if we take you over, if we buy you out, I don't know what to call this. We're gonna give you back your guns. All right.
I'm gonna give you back your gun, or you're gonna get rid of Trudeau.
Yeah, all that shit is. You're gonna have a Second Amendment and a broken Second Amendment and a broken First Amendment, which are better than what you have.
What about better health care, apparently?
What about Mexico?
You think? Well, we got to.
No, I'm gonna build the wall. I'm sorry.
At least in America, we won't encourage you to kill yourself with the MAID program. However, there's a good chance that some sort of illegal immigrant will rape, then kill you, and then you're fine.
Well, yeah, but on that point, what if the euthanasia program takes off in the United States? You know?
Oh man, seriously, Jack Kevorkian went to jail for that stuff. And now you're gonna be able to buy it from a vending machine. Yeah, really interesting to watch the.
We Hesher, real quick. We derailed from the icebreaker. Do you think you want to ask?
Yeah,
Hrvoje
let's go.
Weigh in on
Okay. Yeah. So, Hrvoje, we kicked the show off with this piece out of the New York Post, and it's about groupies sending love letters and commissary money to Luigi Mangione, the United Healthcare CEO, accused assassin. What do you think about that? He's getting love letters. He's getting, all this social media stuff, and
he's getting money.
Yeah, seriously, commissary money. Like he's big balling in the clink right now, probably making some big trades and stuff like that.
Well, when they say a picture is 1,000 words, someone juxtaposed Luigi's photo in the green. It was an orange suit with the cops, with the Joker and the Batman. It's like. That says it all. I'm like, for me, this is some sort of psyop. How is it that this guy gets this show? I mean, it's a show. Like, it's not even necessary. Yeah. And it's like, what? So, something's going on here. This is not normal, And so I haven't, I haven't taken the time to figure it out, but some sort of psyop is going on there. Yeah. But I think that plus what you mentioned, these women, having the hots for him, that's like a symptom of just the breakdown of society and all that.
Yeah, it's the natural born killers effect, man. Like manifest right there.
What is this going to do to the men of the world, Hesher, who already feel like, okay, I need X, Y, and Z in order to impress a girl, which is usually like, I need a job, I need a nice car, I need like
whack a CEO. I mean, is it going to move to that?
Now it's like, oh fuck, I got to murder a CEO to get the girl now. Damn it.
Yeah.
Speaking of whacking a CEO, I don't know if you guys saw that other story out in Yemen where Israel bombed the airports and air bases in Yemen. They just missed the WHO head, Tedros the terrorist. And I was like, I changed. I made a comment and I edited it. I said, they just missed him. I'm like, just kidding. As a Christian, you don't want to wish death upon even anyone, even bad people. I hope Tedros repents and becomes a whistleblower. But
okay, hold on. Let me ask you this, though, Hrvoje. If God himself sent destruction upon the World Health Organization, is it okay to celebrate?
That's whatever happens. I'll just say that.
And God works in mysterious ways, my friend.
You got me.
Yeah. All right, Infidel, what about you, man? Any thoughts on the natural born killer effect with Mangione here?
I have actually a question for the girl. So it seems that given that she's wearing the mask, I assume she's vaccinated. So is she's angry with Pfizer?
Well, man, that's a.
Is she gonna go ballistic on their CEO?
I think you can't make that assumption, Infidel.
I can't. No, sorry.
Because before the pandemic, face masks were very useful to hide your identity. And I think that's probably where she's going with the face mask. That's just an assumption, though, in this case.
That's why I made the same assumption. And that's why I likened her to a potential Antifa-style activist, if you will. Activist.
Which screams PSYOP.
Right. because that's just part of the uniform now. If you're that type of, quote unquote radical activist, then yeah, the stupid surgical mask is may or may not be related to you being jabbed. But quite honestly, you're probably right, Hrvoje. I bet most of those people are jabbed.
I think it was infidel.
I mean, yeah, infidel. Sorry. Yeah, I think
it's okay. We sound the same anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, and there's so much weird stuff with that one, Hrvoje. I agree with you. This whole thing has felt like a psyop all along. It's just like we've got like 15 camera views of this guy, and here's a view of him getting his milkshake, and then 2 minutes and 32 seconds later, he's riding off on his e-bike, taking a left on this street, and there he is, shooting the guy. It's like, what the hell? And then it took him a week, 2 weeks to find him. The whole thing just seems shady. Like this one,
it's
and
not
the
same
one
guy
too.
That they showed that remember the famous picture of him taking down the mask to flirt with the girl?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same fucking dude. There's no effing. That is not the same person. I don't care who you are.
Facial structure.
What is going on with that?
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I always think though with the news, they can amplify. They can create a Luigi-like story for anything.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just like, why this? And then. Okay, it's a story, but why spend so much time on it when so many other things are going on? And so that's just my thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the amount of
James Corbett said something very similar recently about a prediction involving Luigi thing. Was that the fact that okay, you have to stop and ask, okay, if this was like an actual organically created thing, why do we, the general public, get to actually even effing hear about it? Because if they really wanted no one to know about this, we wouldn't know about it. Nobody would hear about this. There's no effing way. It would be completely shadow banned and not talked about in the mainstream media, yet it's everywhere. So much so that our friend Daniel Spaulding, I think, who just left for some reason, said that overtook the drones story. Like the drones story was all the rage. And then actually, okay, I guess we had the drones and the Luigi thing at the same time. I think Daniel was saying that the other thing we're going to talk about tonight with Vivek and Musk and immigration is overtaking the drones thing. But
yeah.
But there is that good point again made by James Corbett just recently that why are we even hearing about this? So that's definitely something to explore. So I'm curious. I've been thinking about this for a couple days now. Why are we? What's the point of this? Do they want do the proverbial they, quote unquote, they want to inspire more violence like this, or do they want to use this as an excuse to incorporate more surveillance and censorship for people who want to say things against, I don't know, say like Big Pharma? Because that could be next, because healthcare is one thing, but the ultimate end of the day, the people who we're really upset with are the drug makers, right? If I'm not mistaken. I don't want to speak for everybody in the room here, but I mean, shit. I mean, technically, the way that they quote unquote treat health is broken. So the health providers are only an extension of that already broken system, which is ruled and owned by the godfathers, the mafia, the Big Pharma. So I don't know. Is it like, so if I say like, oh, Big Pharma bad. I'm RFK Jr. Big Pharma bad. Does that make me like a Luigi Mangione and I could be inciting violence by talking that way? You see, because then you got the hate crime bills that are happening in Australia and the UK, where you literally go directly to jail. You do not collect $200 just for the things that you said on your social media posts. So I don't know where this is going. But again, if they didn't want us to know about this, we wouldn't know about this. So why? I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah. Why and why now? And why does it fit into so many other daily shooter events, which is if anyone's not familiar, that's our broad category. We put very suspect and highly politicized events like this one. It fits right in, and it has many of the hallmarks, many of the hallmarks. So yeah, I'm gonna say on the, we can't say for sure, but what is my sus level? Highly, it's code orange, highly sus that this is some sort of a scripted narrative management event, multi-purpose sort of event. And there's always an angle for the anti-firearms lobby in there, and this particular angle is the suppressor that was used on the weapons. So we've seen some things that we've put in this same sort of category of sus, where you will see the event happen, you'll see the reporting, you'll see the demonization of an inanimate object, and then you'll see legislation come out trying to make it more difficult for citizens to own that object. And this will probably fall into that, although they're going to have a hard time with that one.
That's a fucking stretch, Hesher. I'm like, how are you going to convince people that the CEO would be alive today if it wasn't for the suppressor?
Because people are dumb. Because people are so
that's
stupid.
A good point.
You know, they think semi-automatic guns are automatic guns. They think, you know, it's amazing what people that don't.
If the gunshot was louder, he wouldn't have died.
Yeah. Like
the dude was already shot. People, get the hell out of here.
But clearly,
there's nothing to do with it.
And you know, a suppressed weapon still makes a pretty loud noise in most cases, especially one like that. You've heard how that sounds, Ruckus. It's not like movie silent.
Although I must say, I don't want to be like play devil's advocate. It doesn't seem nearly as loud as a firecracker. It depends on the suppressor that you're using, though.
They can be pretty cool.
I can see multiple threads, like what Ruckus was saying. It plays totally into the algorithm ghetto aspect, right? The social credit, facial recognition, all that stuff. Last night I was watching Danny Jones's podcast with Jack Cruz and Kelly Means. You guys heard about that? Largely a waste of time, in my opinion, but I think it proved that Kelly Means it goes back to what a lot of us were talking about. There's just the Trump administration, the Trump 2.0 administration is basically like a Trojan horse administration, and the whole. I like what Aaron Day tweeted out. He made an AI graphic of a Trojan horse, and you know where it says "Maha, make America healthy again." In the back, it's Big Pharma, and that's like Kelly Means did seem to be a fraud. But what you said about the guns aspect made me think of the car ramming into people in Germany, right? And then I saw comments on Twitter from people saying we should, and this is what's happening in England. They're lowering all the speed limits to 20, kilometers per hour, which is on purpose. It's part of the green agenda. And commenters were saying because of that car driving into people in Germany during Christmas festivities, we should lower the speed limit and push like EVs where they can be remote controlled. You know, it seems like any of these events, whether in with the shooting or the cars, it's like technocracy will be the solution. You know.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing. And like you look around in this topic that's all the heat today, and it's the tech right versus the MAGA right, or I think I was talking with Patrick earlier today. I think it should be the technocracy right versus the MAGA right, if we can even call it that. But that's only the first splinter in what's going to be a large like cracking pattern of the MAGA new right wing conservative sort of in the post-Trump era. Like that. This is just I predict this is just the first fracture. That we're going to be seeing this on multiple topics as we move through the first year or so of this administration. The right wing is going to get very dicey because a lot of them are behaving like as closed-minded as
cult
the liberal
members.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and they're behaving. They're like instituting the sort of ideology and reactiveness that that they railed against, that liberals are known so well for. So it's like you're seeing this whole like people are throwing around the term the woke right. Like Pat Bet-David, for example. He basically said, "Oh, you can't criticize Trump and Vivek and Elon on this."
I was just on those points. I was going to mention. I mean, some of the tweets today. Whitney Webb is on fire with some of the tweets. Tim Pool is defending. I think there's a lot of grift, right, in this. What do you call it? Con Inc. Tim Pool and someone pointed out Patrick Bet-David is using the H-1B visa program to hire the cheapest possible foreign workers. So these guys got skin in the game. And then someone tweeted on Ramaswamy. I mean, it's to quote James Hetfield, sad but true, where he made his millions having his mom help him do a pump and dump scam, lecturing Americans about how they need to work harder. And so it's just kind of like there's so much grift,
Yeah, dude. Check this out. Did you see what David Icke tweeted today? This was pretty cool. Let's see here. He said, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Russell Brand, Brett Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, Mario Nawfal, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Luke Radowski, on, have been Pied Piping you month after month into the lair of the cult via Trump and Musk. While I've been taking untold shit for exposing this, maybe now as the penny drops on the Trump-Musk scam, the tide will turn. Mr. Bobble Hat Pool is doubling down, but that can only last for so long given what is to come. He is, in my view, one of the dimmest and most clueless of them all, and yet large numbers still follow this guy. Extraordinary. Perhaps Alex Jones will now comment on the day reality dawned for MAGA.
I just retweeted that. I vehemently disagree with Ike with his view on God and Jesus, but he is spot on. And again, going back to we saw Jones retweet a map of Canada and USA, and it's like, in the movie Endgame, he was railing against the North American Union, and now he's promoting it. And recently I've been studying. You've got stuff like 1939, Clarence Strait. He proposed the Atlantic Union, where Britain and US and Canada join. And then even Carnegie. I found a paper, an academic paper, where Carnegie was proposing, for Canada and U.S. and Britain to join, and they're like, this is an old globalist plot. I mean, technically, you cannot get out of that, and it's just we've all seen people like Jones and all these people like that that he mentioned. They've gone turncoat a bit for I guess for various reasons, some of them, but I don't know. So.
Yeah, and. Like no one voted for Vivek Ramaswamy or Elon Musk. The fact that these guys are like barnacled to Mar-a-Lago at this point, what is that? These aren't politicians, not that our politicians are politicians either, but for them to be making comments like this, and some of this some of the stuff that has been, Elon's even deleting tweets, I think. I mean,
he canceled a bunch of accounts. No,
canceled accounts.
Criticized him.
Right. People have been doxxed. People have,
That's impossible. He's Mr. Free Speech absolutist.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe for anyone who's like, let me back up for a second here, you guys. For anyone that's, not following this on Twitter, or maybe doesn't know the context here, here's
That's right. Something happened.
Yeah, here's sort of the mainstream take. All right, out of NBC here, Trump advisors Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy expose rift with MAGA loyalists over immigration and tech workers. A multi-day firestorm has erupted over comments made by two incoming advisors to President-elect Donald Trump about H-1B, which is temporary worker visas, for a carve-out for high-skilled workers who some in the MAGA world say are taking American jobs. The fight began brewing on X ahead of Christmas after Trump named venture capitalist Sriram Krishnan to a top artificial intelligence policy post, triggering a racially charged backlash that surfaced Krishan's comments advocating for green cards for skilled workers. The backlash escalated yesterday, Thursday, when Vivek Ramaswamy, in a post on X, criticized an American culture that he said, quote, venerated mediocrity over excellence, end quote, attributing this as one reason for the influx of foreign tech workers. Ramaswamy, of course, who's in Indian America, went on to say he hopes that Trump's presidency can start an American culture that prioritizes hard work over laziness. So tech execs benefit from this. Let's put it that way. Like if we boil this down, who benefits from these type of visas? Mainly tech CEOs and such. And then people started asking on X, well, what is there a salary difference? And oh yeah, as it turns out, there's a salary difference. So they're paying people from India and other places up to 20-30% less than they'd be paying American workers. And there's a federal subsidy that comes into this too. And American taxpayer dollars go into these universities that get these federal subsidies. The whole thing just started unpiling, basically. People started saying, well, what about this university system? You're saying our universities make people stupid and they're not smart enough. But then you got Trump out here now saying, well, I think anybody that graduates from any university, even your community college, should have a green card paperclip to their diploma. Which goes against what he had said earlier. I have clips of all this stuff if we really want to deep dive it, but it caused this whole rift, this whole split. And there were some pretty trollish comments made by some of the celebrities that we're talking about here at this point. And of course, being on X, even if you don't follow Elon, he inserts his thoughts into your feed no matter what. They're there. So
that's part of the thing. Like I unsubscribed from a bunch of people, Alex Jones and others, Mario Naufal, and wokeness. These are a lot of like these grunts for Elon Musk sphere of influence. And I unsubscribe, I unfollowed, yet they keep appearing. And I have to put not interested in this. That tells you there's some sort of psychological operation. Why am I being shown Alex Jones even though I followed the guy? But talking about this visa and foreign workers, this made me think. Before, just days before any of this started, I was sharing stuff. There was a clip from this Canadian mainstream news program where they were interviewing a lot of these liberal globalist wonks, and essentially what they were saying was, we need a North American Union to counter China. And they were saying, we need a continental vision. We need a North American region or union to counter China. And I feel like we've been set up for this. It's like, maybe I'm against all of this, right? But I guess because we've been put in this situation where our back is up against the wall, where China has this workforce, right? After decades of them being designated the laboratory of technocracy by Kissinger and all that, and having been opened up, they've got an advantage. And now for the U.S. to compete, we have to sort of go like North American Union to be able to compete with continental China and Asia. And we've been set up in that regard. And then there was that investor, Kevin Leary. You guys saw that clip where he basically came out and said, yeah, we should have Canada join U.S. like North American Union. Like, it's like it's here.
But what about Mexico? Isn't that a big part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably they're trying to get Canada first, and then Mexico will,
Yeah.
follow.
So, can I comment about this whole H-1B?
Yeah, man, I'm very interested in your perspective.
Yeah, I'm actually 100% with Vivek and then actually Musk. The reason is it is not just that it was multi-corporation. I myself had I have a business in tech. I hired people Americans that were basically asking like 180 plus salaries, and they were not performing, right? And especially during the pandemic time, the whole market in US was completely inflated. These people did not perform. A lot of the tech market in US is really you cannot get out of these people as you can get from non-US workers. And Vivek had actually a post yesterday, and he really spoke about the culture. Part of this is the culture. I am myself, came here as a tech worker, right? I came here to do my PhD. And I got my citizenship, right? At the same time, I'm also, my views about immigration. I'm pretty strong when it comes to migration, and we only need to bring in people that can benefit the society. But I don't think these guys are talking about just importing cheap labor. H-1B program is very important because you have a shortage in the tech sector here in US. And the people here in US, I hate to say this, Americans, especially the new generations, are not hardworking people. It's just the reality of it. If you get someone from overseas and coming here, they will bust their asses and they will be working like, so much more, and you're going to get more out of them, right? So, and this is the reality of it, right? So you as a business have the choice now, whether you take your whole business outside of US, right, and go hire, just do your business out, which, it happens, or you bring in people here that are basically cheaper labor, not necessarily like cheaper, like in a crazy way, but you're bringing in. And actually, I'm even talking about people with degrees here in US. So I hire PhDs people that with masters and PhDs in US, and they are not coming in purely with the same mindset. Yeah, we want to make all this much money and we don't want to work as hard, right? So I don't know how you can change that culture, but it is a reality, and anybody that is not admitting that reality has not lived this themselves. So I lived it, and I made the choice similar to some of these guys, by supporting some of those talents that wanted to work, and you get from them more than what you get from another person, right? So, so it is. There is a lot of, at the same time, there is a lot of loopholes in the H-1B program that Microsoft and some of those other big tech companies uses that actually screw small businesses of giving H-1B visas to actually people that actually worth it. So I think we have to fix the H-1B system, not necessarily get rid of it. But it is a very important program because I think there is a shortage in the tech industry here in the US, and we have to change culture.
Do you think though, and thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. Do you think though that like there should be obviously there's some common sense and some nuance that could be applied to this and make it more acceptable to a lot of Americans. And I would think that one of those things would be fixing our broken university systems. I know that's kind of a pie in the sky big ask at this point. That's a Humpty Dumpty situation maybe, but like, isn't there kind of a sinking feeling when you think about like our universities just can't, our universities and our culture, our 21st century culture in America can't churn out people with that kind of work ethic and that set of skills? Like, should there be a parallel effort to like make sure we still innovate and have opportunities for people that want to contribute, but at the same time, like, we don't want to pull all the talent from like India, because then India loses all of their talent. Like they could be making India greater if we had people here that were culturally and educationally and experientially ready to perform those tasks that people like yourself are finding lacking now.
Yeah, so the American universities are fine from producing the right talent. The issue is a lot of the people that get into those fields and those universities are not Americans, right? Also, aside from this, a lot of Americans that get into those universities, they come in attached with a lot of student loans, whereas foreign students usually come and they basically get paid through either GRAs or some other, like graduate assistantship or teaching assistantships. So they are not necessarily graduating with a lot of debt, but another flip side of this, the entire US educational system, which is I'm pretty familiar with, given my career, is turning right now into another business industry, right?
Yeah.
Universities right now spending billions of dollars, and I'm actually being like, I'm not exaggerating, billions of dollars on creating housing and creating like attractive amenities, and instead of actually spending money on enhancing the programs inside those universities and the core business of the university, which is graduating people with the highest skills. So, but again, it's similar to anything else here in US. It's turning into just another giant business. You bring in people, you raise your tuition, you're gonna bring in your financial aid, right? We're gonna give you money so that you can get into this high universities, and you're gonna graduate with a lot of debt on you, right? And at the end of the day, you are the one in the middle of this. So I agree with you that there need to be some reformation in the educational system right now. But still, like, that's more of a longer term thing. Short term, you cannot just say, I'm not gonna hire or bring in talents. Especially there are talents that actually come here in US and graduate here in US, and they go back. As a matter of fact, China, a lot of the Chinese students that come here, they don't want to stay in US. Actually, they want to go back because their country actually is going to pay them more money, and they incentivize them to go back, right? So why and this is part of the Trump comment, is like, we bring them here, we give them all those, like, education and knowledge, and then they go back to their countries and they benefit them, and we don't benefit from them. Right?
I've even known Mexicans.
Isn't that the argument?
I've even known Mexicans who would get they were offered higher paying, Mexicans in IT who were offered higher paying jobs in the US, but still refused and would prefer to live in Mexico, even though they make less. Still a good salary in Mexico, but they just prefer living in Mexico. And I just have to say, I can't disagree with anything that Infidel says. And I taught, secondary university at the top school here in Mexico, which is very much linked to the Ivy League in the US. And I've been reading lately, I feel like university academia, it's just a scam. It's basically, it's not about education. It's about the credential and the network, right? It has nothing to do at all with education. It's just junk. And, I'm thinking of one of my projects going forward is to record courses that I'll sell through my podcast, but basically I'll be doing what I used to do at the university and hopefully get paid more and reach more people. And there's other people doing this essentially that are being successful. They're basically creating courses that people buy. They're reaching many more people than you would in academia. They're getting paid more than you would in academia. And that's just kind of a point where people aren't buying these official narratives that are being shoved down your throat in academia. And I think if you could, Hesher, I sent you a link. It's like 2 minutes. The last one, it literally sums up everything Infidel says. It's pretty hilarious. I think it's a Chinese comedian. It's really funny.
Yeah, I actually Spore and I just watched the full set of this.
Oh,
one.
Really?
Yeah, it was interesting. You can tell he's very sort of like he makes a lot of like he makes a number of J6 jokes in the thing, and you can tell he's kind of, I mean, it appears to me as the viewer, of course it's a comedy show, you can never assume these things, but it appears to me that his opinion of J6 is that of the mainstream media's opinion of J6. But even that, like, I didn't have to click out, even stuff like that, like he was still able to say it in a way that was kind of funny. But yeah, there was some great some great moments in this one. Let's give it a go.
Post-World War II, U.S. leadership traded the domestic manufacturing industry for national security by making the U.S. dollar the default international trade currency. which gave America the ability to impose economic sanctions on foreign countries through a U.S. financial banking system, but consequently increased the value of the U.S. dollar astronomically, which made it impossible for anyone to manufacture anything in America. Although the logic at the time was that Americans were supposed to upskill en masse away from the menial manufacturing jobs. But everyone here's too much of a dumbass to stay in school, so we just traded domestic manufacturing to Asia and the rest of the world at the expense of working class families. But if you don't read enough, it comes out as, let's go, Brandon! And it's like you have a point, but you don't have the vocabulary to describe your reality because you didn't read enough. You gotta keep reading. Very, very passionate people, my MAGA friends. And I respect their passion to some extent. I do. They're like, man, Ronnie, I love America. I would die for this country. And I believe them. I believe they love America. And I believe they would die for this country, which is very admirable. But it's like, man, you're willing to die for your country. Why aren't you willing to learn math? Also for your country. Like do both for your country. Because I know you want to die for your country, but we're losing the engineering jobs to Asia right now. So we need less people to die for the country. You need more people to do their homework for the country. Like do your homework for your country. Like actually sit down and show the working and like do that. That's a more efficient way to show your patriotism. Like I know if you take that I want to die energy and you put it into homework, you will fucking top the school. I'm telling you, it's sky's the limit. You'll solve a lot of problems. You'll create a lot of jobs. You'll increase the GDP. Okay, just like do your homework for your country. I'd rather die. I thought so. I thought that might be. Dying's easy. Math is hard. These quadratic equations make me suicidal.
So does differential equations.
But my God, as a math nerd, I approve this message.
Yeah.
Hrvoje, to your point, Ivy League is not, and I always tell this to people, it's nothing more, and as you said, as network. This is what you pay for, is you go in so that you can network with people and you get out with just a name and you can get a job in somewhere. Nothing more than that. Has nothing to do with the quality of the education.
And the quality of the education varies, but it markedly has gone down. You know, I mean, the university the postgraduate university that I worked at and went to, it was in my personal opinion, it was in its final days of like the older style of academics that were more like, you know, your classic like Stanford sort of standards. And became something that was more just like this. There's that whole thing you guys are talking about at the faculty and staff level. And then there's the master's degrees and the PhDs. And those were just like, just turn the crank, basically, you know, you just turn the crank and the sausage comes out. And this was a military university, you know, so they didn't even allow civilians to go there unless they worked there or, you know, there was certain, you know, special reasons why people could. And that changed right around the time I separated from that position. And they started doing, and then when COVID happened, I heard they started doing online courses with open enrollment. And I was just like, what happened? Like, you know, this, you know, and I'm sure they still do great work there. I still know people there. There was some pretty amazing stuff going on there. But at the same time, there were a lot of departments that were just sort of like going through the motions and cranking out the students. And that seemed to be the product. And then the culture was exactly what you guys are describing. It's all relationships and clubs and people that go to the same church or the same country club or, you know, from the same circles or whatever. And, you know, I don't know, man, it's a mess. And like, that's where this whole thing unravels, right? Like it seems like we're focusing on like the H-1B factor, which, you know, is the catalyst to this discussion and all this stuff. But it's like Humpty Dumpty already freaking fell down. And the, you know, H-1B factor is just one of many broken pieces. The sad tragedy here is that our educational system has declined into, you know, like like most of our institutions, something that most people question, don't trust, think is too expensive, feel predated upon by, you know. So it's like it's sorry, but like we're not going to fix this problem by even making H-1B better. Like we have to go all the way backward and fix everything that's been broken. But what's been broken is our entire fucking culture and people's minds and you know, abilities. You know, people are in this environment. It's difficult for people to reach their potential, and we're 2 generations into that.
Here's the latest headline: Ivy League school Princeton to offer classes on basically porn, erotic dance, queer spaces, escorting,
There you go.
street work, prostitution. And, you know, again, I taught at the Ivy League in Mexico. I mean, they had Al Gore came to our campus. They paid him $200,000 during the online COVID graduations. I wasn't there, but former colleagues told me, you know, Bill Gates and Hillary Clinton gave speeches, and I would have exchange students from Harvard, and you know, I would assign a strong quantity of reading to my undergrad international relations students, and most wouldn't read. I mean, they were mixed classes of international and Mexican students, and the Harvard students would be like, "Yeah, we read more than this, and you guys can't even handle like what I'm giving to you." And yeah, I just have become so dissatisfied with education in general, anywhere. I mean, I taught at the top schools in Kazakhstan and Mexico, and it's just like, if I can, I don't want to go back to education. It's just, you know, podcasting and other venues, you reach more people doing what you love, doing it correctly, and it's just, I think it's done. It's toast. Education.
Yeah. So if you even read that, if you go into this article, you'll see this is like this like garbage of equality, equity, and so if you go scroll down, the course also explore how feminist, gender, queer, and trend theory can help us chart new avenues for writing critical architectural histories that are attentive to discourses of differences and narrative of equity.
What?
What kind of garbage is this? It sounds like an AI generated article, to be honest, actually.
Yeah. Excuse me. The course explores the intricate lives and intimate narratives of street workers as they engage in various forms of global street work, such as pornography, prostitution, erotic dance, escorting, street work, camming, commercial fetishism, and street work tourism.
We spoke about something similar about this specific topic before in Boiler Room. We even pulled like some AI generated articles about it. Remember? You guys remember this one?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's pretty. But the point is,
I don't think that's something we would do here, Infidel. Okay.
No. Yeah, I know, right?
We would never.
Yeah. No, actually, like that skit was pretty funny, Hrvoje, actually, and he just, it was spot on.
Yeah, he's a really, you can tell he showed off his well-readedness right there. He's got a good grasp on what's going on, and I found it interesting how he was able to kind of parlay that into,
Plus, he called out the quadratic equation.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
The quadratic equation. I mean, which is something that, unless you've taken high-level calculus, you don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah. Hey, check it out. We got Simon from Florida joining us. Simon, what's going on, buddy?
Hi there, guys. Thank you very much
for the invite.
It's been a while.
Great to see you in the show.
What's going on? Well, there's a lot going on. Did you have a chance to read the press release that the Chinese Foreign Ministry put out about their meeting with the Iranian foreign minister over the last 2 days?
No, I saw you posting about it, but I haven't got to read it yet. Give us the go.
So the really big part of it, which is buried halfway in the text, which is several pages of close type, is the Iranian foreign minister taking the phrase that I've coined in regards to the Pakistanis, which is taking the pledge. and they've basically signed up to the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilizational Initiative of the Chinese.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess we better hurry up and immigrate as many of them as possible to America before it's too late.
Oh my goodness. So tell me more. Tell me more, Simon.
So that whole thing is a continuation of the $400 billion 25-year Chinese investment into Iran, which has already started. Okay. And it has to be seen in the context of the announcement this week that Pezeshkian is flying to Moscow on the 17th of January to meet with Putin to finally sign the multi-year two Iranian administration negotiated huge comprehensive cooperation agreement 3 days before Trump is inaugurated, which is going to have the effect of extending the Russian nuclear umbrella over Iran, just as they did with North Korea.
Aha. And last time you were here, we were talking about exactly that, allies and blocks, and we were breaking down the language that we're seeing coming out of Moscow there. So this is kind of as we suspected then, isn't it?
Yeah, but the deal has to be ratified by the Iranian MAGA, which is like their parliament, and the Russian Duma. But I suspect that's going to be rushed through really fast. Then we've also had confirmation today that the gas supply via the pipelines crossing Ukraine is going to be cut off on January the 1st. And that may have the effect of quadrupling energy prices, certainly for Moldova, but possibly also for Hungary and Slovakia. They're relying upon having stuff shipped via Turkey with South Stream and Turk Stream, but who knows if there may be another group of guys out on a fishing trip who might sabotage those pipelines, a la Nord Stream 2.
Right. Yeah, plans.
Germany is going to go bankrupt.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be bad for Germany.
Well, Germany's got their federal election. That was confirmed this week as well for February 23, right? And tomorrow, we've got the new Georgian president being inaugurated, and the old president's refusing to leave the presidential palace. And today, she called for protesters to go to the palace at 10 a.m. She basically called for insurrection.
Well, here we go again.
Yeah, I think she said she might finally leave tomorrow. But on the whole multipolar thing, I've sensed a bit of weakness. After Russia and Iran stood down on Syria, and it was basically a redux of Gaddafi and Libya. That was kind of that.
So it is really interesting. So I'm still struggling how that, Assad just flee all of a sudden, Iran just, all of a sudden decided not to do anything. I think there might be some reshuffling of cards that's happening, and refocusing of resources. And I don't know really how much Iran is going to invest in their proxies, because it seems it's almost like dropping Hezbollah right now. So it just might be just reshuffling of those strategic alliances between those major countries. And Assad was it was one of those casualties of like, hey, it shouldn't be the focus right now for us. We're just going to focus our resources somewhere else.
Well, it's interesting watching this. I am seeing this reshuffling, like we had that very strange occurrence in Romania with that election where it was like nullified over a TikTok campaign, and then we have what's going on in Georgia, massive protests, all that. The South Korean thing, it's a bummer. Daniel had to go, everybody. He had a bad Wi-Fi connection. We were going to be with Daniel Spaulding tonight, who's calling in from South Korea.
On South Korea, I don't know if you guys aired this theory that one of the military leaders in South Korea wanted to initiate basically a false flag to start war with North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And that could have been related to the martial law thing, and it just didn't bite, which was good.
Right. and they like impeached that guy. They put someone else in, but then now they're impeaching him because he won't ratify the impeachment of the first guy. And then everything we've seen in Venezuela, like all these regime changes and all this election meddling, you know, Brazil's on the list too. I don't know, Simon, what do you think about? There's a lot of moving parts
so
here.
The South Korea situation is really interesting. So when the first president was impeached at the second attempt, much like Mayorkas in America, then the prime minister became the interim president. Now, he had to fill some Supreme Court vacancies, and the Supreme Court has to. It doesn't go to the Senate. They basically don't have a Senate. They just have a National Assembly. So the confirmation for the impeachment of the first president goes to the South Korean Constitutional Court. Okay, they have 9 justices, and they have to have a minimum of 7 sit in order for this issue to be heard. But they've got 3 vacancies, so they have to have at least 1 more appointee to even make the quorum, and then they have to have 6 positive votes to confirm the impeachment. So, under accusations that he was dragging his feet about doing that in order to time it out, because it had to be done within 6 months. Otherwise, the impeached president was able to resume office. And it looked like they were trying to drag it out so that that guy could come back, right? And in the past, we've had the Constitutional Court confirm one impeachment and reject another impeachment. So it's gone both ways in the past. And so it wasn't quite clear in the South Korean constitution what the majority vote was, whether it was 2/3 or 50+1, to impeach the interim president, which had never been done before. Okay, so there's 300 seats in the National Assembly, and they got 190 votes, so it wasn't technically 2/3, but they thought they were going to have to go to the Constitutional Court and actually have them rule, literally make up the rule for what the number had to be to impeach the second guy. And he just stood up and said, "That's enough. I'm done. You've impeached me." So now they're on president number 3, which is the finance minister.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So like, where does all this head in 2025? You know, like what do you think is the overall picture? Like I see all these moving parts. I see, you know, what is it's strange to me because you'll see the sort of, you know, Atlanticist globalist bloc, you know, whatever you want to call it, like supporting you know, so-called conservative governments in some places and so-called liberal governments in some places. There's clearly no, you know, governing style sort of chess moving here that's going on. It's more about things that are under their control, right? Like, it seems to me there's as many puppets of the WEF and the World Bank and that whole crew being installed at a time when many Americans feel like, you know, we're getting out of that phase. What do you think, Simon? What's going to happen with all these moving parts?
Well, we've got 2 things going on. We've got Trump trying to end the Ukraine war, and he's relying upon Kellogg, who's like 82 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And he has in the past made some extremely bombastic, kind of classic American military from the 80s, Cold War, anti-communist type statements. Doesn't seem to be a particularly good envoy for any kind of reasonable negotiations, frankly. But the other play that's been afoot has been America's pivot to Asia, and in particular, NATO in Asia. Now, there's been quite a bit of pushback against that. And so they went for this kind of halfway measure, which was this new trilateral agreement that was done at Camp David between Biden, the former Japanese prime minister, and the former Korean president. So now, within 4 months, all 3 of those guys are gone. All right. Now, the socialists in the Republic of Korea, South Korea, are very, very anti this very staunchly China containment policy that the conservative president, the first guy to be impeached, had signed himself up to with the Americans, and they were uncomfortable about the American nuclear-armed submarines and aircraft carriers being stationed in their waters and just explicitly having nuclear weapons back in South Korea, which hadn't been the case for over 2 decades. And so it's very likely that a Socialist Party candidate will win the next general election, or presidential election rather, in South Korea, which would have to take place within 60 days if the Constitutional Court confirmed the impeachment of the first guy, Yoon, who's been suspended in the meantime. And the problem with that, ironically, is that the leader of the Socialist Party in South Korea has been convicted of multiple election law violations, such that it's actually sufficient, like they're trying to do to Marine Le Pen, which is ban him from holding public office for a decade. So they're going to have a leadership switch out in the Socialist Party, and whoever the replacement is not going to have anything like the name recognition. And as it is, the guy who's been convicted, who they had to serve notice of his conviction on, like serving like a summons in America. He evaded service for months, and they finally served him this week. So now he's on a countdown for an appeal, and so simultaneously the Constitutional Court, that's still missing 3 judges, is going to have to decide on the impeachment for the first president and the possible barring from public office of the guy most likely to replace the first guy if they confirm his impeachment. I mean, talk about complicated, right?
Wow. Is it just me, you guys, or is it looking like all political parties right now are just in shambles? Like almost all of them, if you really back out and look at it, it's just like the corruption is so rank and so, astronomical across the board. People are losing faith in all political parties at this point.
I'd say that, but also I feel like the globalist American empire is tying up loose ends and going for the gold. Just to go back to the Middle East for a second. I mean, Foreign Affairs, CFR published an article titled "An Israeli Order in the Middle East." I've been pointing this out for a while, where, in one of my Substack analyses some weeks back, I looked at decades old publications from Foreign Affairs and Council on Foreign Relations, where they basically say, openly, they say, we can use the pretext of war with Iran to create a Middle Eastern EU and a Middle Eastern NATO. And then you've got this piece on Foreign Affairs from 10 days ago saying, what's happening in the Middle East today is best understood as a struggle over a new regional order. Israel has begun to exert its power to reshape the Middle East. Its objectives would include establishing an American Arab-Israeli alliance based on the shared regional vision, blah, blah, blah. The summit should aim to accelerate the development of a permanent regional defense architecture. And so again, in past CFR publications, they said we need a Middle Eastern NATO and we need a EU-like Middle Eastern Union. And so it just seems like, I think a lot of the events that are going on, the end goal, of course, is world government, and world government means regional unions. And back to, Asian NATO, they want an Asian NATO, so on and so forth. So I feel like a lot of things are cooking, because we're in a late stage, and yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy, I think, 2025, 26, 27.
Did you see this article that Janet Yellen put out today, where she's saying that the US government is going to hit the debt ceiling between January 14 and January 23, and that the Treasury is prepared to step in with, quote, emergency measures, which she said would buy them 2 weeks of liquidity. So either the week before Trump's inaugurated or the week after, we're literally maxing out the credit card, and that's going to have huge knock-on consequences as well.
I mean, I'm curious. Yeah, that and its relation to Bitcoin. Like, I don't know what to think with all this Bitcoin stuff now. I'm very suspect with Bitcoin, but I feel like that's a play with what you're saying, Simon, that It's like they want a Bretton Woods 3.0 where we went from gold to oil and now digital gold, Bitcoin. And I don't know if it's going to work, their move to kick the can down the road with Bitcoin. I mean, for me, it doesn't make sense. I'm listening to Michael Saylor. Like, for me, it's tulip mania, but I feel like it's going to collapse, or somehow they're going to succeed in creating like a Bretton Woods 3.0. I got no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you're saying this, because I'm saying, like, earlier in the green room, I was saying I'm pretty I always been suspicious to Bitcoin, and I did not want to buy into it. But I think, to your point, I think the system is inevitable. It just at some point just going to collapse, right? I think it's past a point that they can really reverse course or say correct it. The question is, how can they soften that impact of the crash? And if they are going to use the digital currency as a way to soften that impact, but at the same time use it to get everybody on board with the whole digital currency piece of it, right? That I don't know if how it's going to end up, but I'm suspecting that they definitely this Bitcoin and the digital currency will play a big part of that for them trying to soften the impact of the collapse that's inevitable to happen.
Well, this is where Doge comes into play, isn't it? The whole department of government efficiency, or whatever the fuck they're calling it. Like, it was just like, if you just roll the clock back like 1 year, literally 1 year from the date, you could probably find news stories about how Elon Musk is like, oh, he's in trouble for talking about this cryptocurrency called Doge, which is a cryptocurrency, by the way, Dogecoin, meme coin. And when he came out and talking about it, he was in trouble with the SEC. And now they're creating an entire like agency called the Department of Government Efficiency, where they're openly, publicly talking, unelected officials, by the way, before the next president has even been inaugurated, talking about how they're willing to replace government workers with artificial intelligence. And everybody's okay with this, but yet, yeah, we're like, yeah, we will embrace that type of technocracy and have no problem with it. We have no issue with Elon Musk until he starts talking about immigration, which again brings us back to this HB1-1 thing, right? Like, Make America Great Again? Shouldn't making America great again involve, like, improving the quality of education so that we don't have to outsource our intelligence? I mean, just saying. I mean, shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that's a long term. As we said, that's more of a longer term. There's always a long term that you have to start on, and then there is short term. But to the point.
Okay. The other part of the argument, Infidel, is the fact that, like, the reason there's a rift here happening is because, like, the concept of make America great again, by outsourcing your intelligence by this immigration thing for the sake of tech. Like, so just why do we have to do this? Oh, well, because we don't want to be beaten by China. That's the elephant in the room. It's the unspoken thing. It's like, oh, it's all about, like, well, fuck, China has definitely got our asses whipped, or India, any of these other countries, right? India, I guess, is pretty big on the tech, but let's look at China for a second. Like, well, I understand the long-term thing, but again, how difficult is it for people to pull their heads out of their asses, get off the fucking fluoride, and learn some fucking math, bro? Math is not that difficult, people. I assure you. I'm only a flesh and blood human being, and I can learn math. You can learn math too, okay? We don't need to outsource these things.
The only undergrad course that I failed was my math course, and it was it was one of those general courses that was mandatory, so I had to retake it a second time.
Math isn't for everybody.
Me too. Same, dude. Same. I had to take my calculus class twice. It was that. Oh yeah, it was nasty. It was nasty. And when I took it the second time, I had to put everything on it. You know what I mean? Like the only reason I probably passed the second time, shout out to my calculus teacher. Actually, RIP to my calculus teacher. That guy was cool. He passed away not that long ago. But yeah, I took every office hour that he had. Every time he had an office hour, I was there. Like, did I do this right? I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, and he was super patient, and I think I passed with like a 78 in that class or something. So I was like, you know, in C+ category probably. But that one kicked my ass. That's the only one I had to take twice, I think.
Can I go back to a point that Ruckus was talking about? So for the government thing, though, right? What is the purpose of government employing? Why does the government employ people?
Good question.
So currently, let's maybe I can re-ask my question a different way. So currently, we have a bloated federal government, right? That we can agree that if you fire 50% of them, probably nothing is going to happen, as Vivek said, right? So we're wasting money just to give people jobs, right? That then we have to pay for it from our tax money, right? So what is wrong with creating more government efficiency through AI? What's wrong with that?
Because
and don't tell me it's a gateway. Don't tell me I understand the gateway. So I understand the gateway to, like, you know, going, meaning like expanding this to surveillance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a controlled use of technology to replace or to make government more efficient in certain aspects.
Precedent. I'm 100% standing by my comment here. It sets precedent to give excuse to every mom and pop store on the fucking planet. How do you feel about being replaced, Infidel? There are quite a few number of things that you do to earn money that could be replaced by AI. Yes? Be more efficient.
Well, I mean, I think that, Ruckus, I mean, I kind of like it is what it is. And, you know, people talk about the horse and buggy before the car and all that. And like, that's just a fact of life. But what Infidel mentioned, you know, this has been on my mind. I'm interviewing a guy this week. He's an academic. He's worked with government, and his research is about, I think his point in his research talks about how less regulation or more regulation just destroys the economy and business. So I think we can all agree less regulation is good. But I think it's very insidious. The point that you made, Infidel, not you, but just, you know, in March of 2020, related to COVID, I wasn't. You guys know Spiros Kouras? He had a big alternative media channel. Yeah. He was deplatformed twice, and he just gave up. And because of my Francis Boyle interview, I was a guest on his program, and I basically said that the point of COVID was to install world government algocracy. And I was reading Nick Bostrom's paper, who said basically we need, you know, Patrick Wood talks about technocracy. I like the term algocracy, ruled by AI, by algorithm. Borg, I call him Borg Brende, the second in command at World Economic Forum. He just gave a speech talking about we need an algorithm, you know, one ring to rule them all. We need an algorithm of algorithms. We need a master algorithm to monitor all the other algorithms. And you know, Nick Bostrom talks about, he literally says we need a world totalitarian surveillance state run by AI, algocracy. Joe Rogan had Mark Andreessen on recently. Joe Rogan was promoting. So I said this in March of 2020, and Joe Rogan now is saying, hey, we should have AI run the government. And nothing is, you know, I think there's always nuance. It's not always black and white. And to your point, Infidel, like, less regulation is good. There could be some good in this, but I think in the long run, it's a very insidious game that the technocrats are playing. Their goal is this, you know, centralized totalitarian system, and I feel like that's ultimately our final destination. So
yeah, well, yeah, no. So I actually agree with you. It's not always less regulation better, and the reason is a lot of the shit we're in right now is because of, especially when it comes, when you have less regulation, humans tend to destroy things sometime, right? There is a reason why
more freedom.
So this is where we get into this whole like libertarian argument, right? That I don't necessarily think things work idealistically the way libertarian things will work, right? That, hey, if you have everything open and just people are going to organize themselves and everything is going to be good, just humans don't work this way. There's always greed. There is always like people that's going to try to benefit more, and they don't care about everything else, right? So I do agree that actually some sensible regulations are important, but at the same time, creating regulations to create bodies to benefit from those regulations, like what Europe did, right? So if you look at Europe, for example, regulation of medical devices, they killed innovation because now nobody is able to go through the market except the big companies that are able to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now you have unelected bureaucrats that are sitting in Brussels, right, in this unelected bodies that are putting regulations that are nonsensible regulations. So I agree, like sensible regulations are okay. To your point about the I'm not saying let AI run the government. I think that's stupid, right? And AI will never be able to do that, by the way. I think people overhype AI. I think there is what I'm talking about is making things more efficient through digital mean that can be facilitated with some applications of AI, not full control. And for us to allow that to happen at the same time, we need to put some regulations in place to prevent things that we're all worried about, that we know it's inevitable is going to happen, because the people that want to be in power and to have full control over everything are going to try to push into that direction, right? So we might need to have some more regulations to prevent that surveillance, that surveillance state that we did not buy into, but we were forced into, right? That started like after 9/11 and just continued until now. And it's getting more and more every day.
Yeah, well, we didn't vote for that the same way we didn't vote for Elon Musk to have any sort of, policy making ability.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree. So it's so it's, but at the same time, I cannot be always skeptical about technology and human advancement, because the same argument that we're using about that next like generation of like or the next, I would say, revolution in human history, it's inevitable, right? I think this is inevitable. The same like this industrial revolution happened, and it put a lot of people out of businesses, right? I think that next revolution is going to put some other people out of businesses, but that means that we have to adapt, and we need to find how we are going to move forward. But that doesn't mean that we all have to resist change. I think that's where I disagree with you, Ruckus, is like resisting change does not necessarily mean keeping us safe. I think you can adapt change, but at the same time move, you can be skeptical enough to be able to move forward.
I'm just saying make America smart again without having to import all the outsourcing.
No, I agree with you there. I think we need to make America more.
I mean, it is tricky. It is tricky for damn sure. But it'd be like, okay, like say you have a sports team, like the U.S. Olympics. The U.S. Olympics is supposed to be comprised of a team of nothing but U.S. athletes. But if you decide, well, we're going to import this Russian athlete, for instance, who or
Australian breakdancer.
Yeah, the Australian, let's say the Australian breakdancer is now part of the U.S. team because she's such an awesome breakdancer, clearly. Yeah, I'm like, at what point does it cease to be America? And I mean, like, what the fuck? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But then again, America as a country always has been a hodgepodge. We are not. I mean, if you want to be native about what America is, then you have to be Native American. And I don't know how many Native Americans are very keen to the quadratic equation. I don't know.
I took the long route. I became a Mexican, so that's. I mean, Mexicans were here before.
There you go.
So I'm
There you go.
kind of like that.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because on the one hand, I despise the idea of a technocracy. I don't want to live in Terminator. I don't want to live in a dystopic future. I don't want to be the person that puts new batteries in at the death robot factory that and then get bullied by death robots on my way home from work. I don't want I don't want to lose.
Okay, so Hesher, death robots.
Hold on. I don't want any of that, but at the same time, I have no say in that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the smartphone arrival and the arrival of social media. Those that developed it, the ones that have made this product that they profit on in perpetuity now and can mind control us they didn't sit down and say, hey America, we're gonna introduce this device into your lives, and guess what? It's gonna put pornography in the pockets of all your children. It's gonna cause feedback loops that will radicalize you and polarize you. It's gonna cause your daughters to commit suicide and have body dysmorphology. It's gonna assist in potentially tens of millions of your children getting genital mutilation surgery. It's going to change your culture fundamentally. It's going to destroy religion. It's going to destroy the family, but you'll no longer have to stop your car and unfold a map when you're driving in the city. You know what I mean? Like, they could have warned us that was the plan, but of course they don't, because they made profit on it and they were able to culturally engineer us into this next phase of acceptance. And that was an inflection point or a paradigm change that was thrust upon us, and this AI thing is being thrusted upon us right now. They're not, Elon Musk, to his credit, has made some warnings, and OpenAI used to have an ethics board. They all quit, by the way, recently on the same day, and they closed the ethics board down. And then you look at Bilderberg, you look at the WEF, they're talking about AI every year for the last 7 years. It's been in the top 5 of their topics. And they don't say what they're talking about AI or why all those, shapers of geopolitics and culture are obsessed with it. But now we see it. It's in our Skype. It's in our operating systems. It's in our Adobe stuff. It's in our Twitter. It's everywhere. You can go sign up for one that costs you $300 a month and perform the job of an IT team for you, a financial management team for you. I mean, we're on the cusp of something that none of us can stop, and only weirdos that have been talking about it for years kind of are putting the pieces together, have been putting the pieces together, and we have a pretty clear picture of what the long-term technocratic control grid looks like, and there's no way out. All we can do is ride the train on the on the engine car like we have been, and poke through that precipice, that membrane, into this next phase. And right now, we were just Spore and I were just talking with a friend who told us about an AI excuse me, that he's using, and it's going to wipe out an entire industry. It is going to literally wipe out 30% of the employees that push paper in a massive medical industry. And quite frankly, these are people that fuck up all the time. These are people that lead to some of those delays, that lead to some of these problems that maybe led to that CEO being killed, if that narrative is above board. So like, and people that make jingles, people that do art for album covers, all out of business. Like right now, like all out of business already. AI is taking over these things. So it's like, we just look around and it's like, what happens when construction workers aren't needed anymore? What happens when Atlas robots are better than construction workers? So it's an interesting inflection point that we're at here, you guys, because we can't stop it. Some of us have a broader picture of where it leads. And at the same time, you see some miracles within it, opportunities that, Infidel's talking about here. So it's a really interesting time. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So let's go back to the iPhone thing, right? So you said that was put on us, but everybody bought into the iPhone, right? Because of the convenience it brought to everybody. And I don't think when the iPhone was first put in market, the picture that we're in right now wasn't the head of these people, right? I think things evolve and people see opportunities that they build on to move forward and to profit from. This is the whole idea about the capital market, right? And so, but at the end of the day, it was because of the adoption of people that adopted the iPhone that led us where we are right now, right? If people rejected it, it wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Yeah,
Look at, for example,
but it becomes ubiquitous. And when I take your point, there's a lot of opportunity and organic growth that just happens along the thing. But you look at like the CIA project that initially was the software that backed Facebook and all that, and the people that designed
DARPA LifeLog.
Yeah, LifeLog. And the people that designed the reaction emojis and the way that Facebook has tracked that and the way that they use it, they intentionally design a lot of those things in ways that they know will harm people's psyche or manipulate them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It is designed to be addictive so that you can buy into it and they make money out of you, right? But it's I'm trying to get to is, it is not necessarily from the very beginning everybody had this, you had the entire vision, but it's, was that
no, keep going, man.
Be silly.
Okay. So but basically, like, it came out, the iPhone came out, and people start building on top of it, the app markets, when AI, machine learning has been used like for decades, right? I've been doing neural networks since the 90s, and it's been used in submarines and ships, like, from the 70s and 60s. So, but then a leap happened with those large models, right, that were introduced, and I think that did the evolution that we're seeing right now, right, and allowed it to be able to. Not everybody in the beginning knew all the applications of it, but people people figure things out as we go, and I think that opened opportunities. But at the end of the day, you have to be cautious, and I think that's the point I'm trying to get to, is you're not necessarily are going to reject every opportunity with something new, but you have to be cautious so that you don't end up in a situation where you give up your rights, where you are fully controlled by technocracy, where you're fully controlled by AI, right? So I think that's
the rub, I guess, right? Because we don't feel like we have rulers that are willing to represent the public, even though that is the opinion of probably the common man and woman across the planet. We see nothing but corrupt degenerates at the top of every country and corporation,
because they are controlled by bankers, are controlled by the same people that, I mean, look at our government, right? It's controlled by bankers, it's controlled by lobbyists, right? Which is the same corporation that makes
multinational bankers and lobbyists, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's also technocracy. I mean, part of the goal of technocracy is to get rid of politicians, and I think that's one of the reasons we have such clown politicians in many countries around the world, because they've been, I mean, on one hand, it's what you guys already mentioned, it's just natural outgrowth of incompetence and clowns, but also the system, these international financiers are egging it on, so we can say, look, we've had enough of these clowns. Let's wipe them out and install technocracy, which is ruled by experts, the white coats, white lab coats and AI. But just to go back to your point, Infidel, I've been looking at stuff. I think the whole technocratic angle is a bit more sinister. I'm more cynical, coming also from a Christian worldview, that I think it's more demonic. I mean, I was reading stuff about Steve Jobs, and Apple has the bite out of the apple. People talking about how on the bookshelf behind Steve Jobs he had like imagery related to the Garden of Eden and stuff like that. And so I think it's really, a lot of it is demonic, but I still leave room for nuance, as you say. Like, a lot of this technology, it can be it's a double-edged sword. So I'm not like, don't use it. But I recently listened to a Christian lecturer talk about, I didn't know this, Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, that part of his story and imagery was Lord of the Rings was a symbol for the struggle against industrialization and technocracy, right? Lord of the Rings. And one of the solutions that he was talking about is we really need to smash our smartphones and go back to the analog. And Simon Elmer out in the UK, who does great work, he talks about the same stuff. And so I feel like it's not a simple solution. There's good stuff from technology. So again, I'm leaving room for nuance. But at the end of the day, I do really sense a sinister, dark force in all of this. And I just feel like I prefer the analog world. Like, I'd be happy in rural Croatia with I remember hanging out in my grandpa's village in Croatia, donkeys and turkeys, and going out with him to harvest watermelons and stuff. And it just like, I honestly would be happy without a smartphone and internet and the digital realm out there on the Dalmatian coast, So
I'm the same way. I'm absolutely the same way. As a matter of fact, I intentionally start leaving my phone when I go out actually to do something. I leave my phone. I don't take it with me, right? Today, actually, I was thinking even about my son, my 3-year-old son. Like, I need to teach him some of the skills that I had to learn growing up that now are completely replaced. Hesher was talking about maps, right? Like, what if something happens and people now are so lazy they cannot read maps, right? Your GPS network just got disrupted for what fucking reason ever, right? So I think those are the things that people should not lose, because at the end of the day, you have to be self-sufficient. And I think what people need to realize, being tied to the digital grid, you're at the mercy of electronics, and you're at mercy at a system. Because of a solar flare, the whole system can go down, right?
Or nuclear hypersonic,
exactly. Whatever, right? Like, or an EMP attack.
But I make fun of my wife. Like, we're here in Mexico. This is the town where she's from, and I know the city better than her. And she's given her brain over to Dr. Google, to the Google Maps, to whatever, and she'd know. Like, I know her city better than she does, and I'm like, why do you need a map from that? Like, don't you know this street and that street? And I'm like, you should learn it. And this is just across the board. People have just, when I one of my professors, Ibrahim Souz, he's the brother-in-law to the late Yasser Arafat out in Geneva, and he made a meme in our classes about Dr. Google, right? You just ask, you don't need doctors anymore. You just type in and Dr. Google will tell you everything. And it's just kind of like people today just have given their brains over to this app or that app, and they don't have to think anymore. And they've just it's become a habit now.
It's becoming a habit, and a lot of those newer AI models is even gonna take that to the whole new level, right? Can summarize a whole book for you and give you the information that you can take it from it, but then you have to trust it, right? But at the same time, it makes your brain lazy, and this is, I think that's the point I was trying to get to, is I don't think you should subscribe to laziness, because laziness is going to lead to us being dumber, and then at some point the issue is that AI is going to take over. The issue is humans are going to start becoming dumber that we're not going to lose actually the technology that we were able to create because we're unable to sustain it, right? Because we're going to get dumber.
Dude, that's maybe the biggest thing I'm struggling with here tonight as I try not to just turn into a complete nihilistic misanthrope. I'm afraid we're just at a point where largely we're living in an idiocracy, and intellectual circles like we have gathered right here amongst ourselves and our viewers and listeners out there will become smaller and smaller and smaller as the systems, if you will, start spitting out AI generated news and AI generated analysis and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, that's apparently what Elon Musk looks like he's going to be boosting in the X algorithm. It already works that way. You got people out there like Mario and Ian and, you know, all these folks, and Elon himself inserting themselves into your feeds and giving you meme troll level breakings about current events. Oftentimes they're completely distorted, and you're actually deranked if you link to the source in there. Could you imagine that? This guy's telling us that if you're on X, you are a journalist now, you are the media now. But God forbid you should do the number one rule of an actual journalist, which is show your work or show a source if you're going to talk about a story or something like that. But no, you actually get deranked for that. So people like the ones I mentioned, you know, it's amazing. These celebrity accounts, they're in your feed no matter what. People read their things and take it as fact. Like that account. Sorry, Mario. Sorry, Ian. You're easily replaced by an AI agent at some point here along the way that could do the exact same thing and still not give us a reference link. And by the way, you can't even tell with some of these accounts because they're, you know, anonymous as it is. Let me welcome Johnny Vedmore to the boiler room. What's up, Johnny? Good to see you, buddy.
My boys, how's it going? It's early in the morning. I actually got out of bed for this. I woke up. I realized you were here. Me and my dog, we woke up and we were like, all right, let's get on there and say hello.
Tell everyone your dog's name, Johnny.
This is what, Bella Boo? Bella. This is Bella Chow. She's a very nice little lady. She is super cute, man. Oh, she's off the lead as well. So she's her own girl. I walk down the street and she goes up and introduces herself to everyone. So she's a pretty awesome little madam, though she's probably going to bugger off.
The easiest way to get laid, all you single guys out there, just get a dog.
I'd say so. You know, one of the things is you walk down the street and as a human being nowadays, human beings avoid each other, but human beings see Fluffy Dog first and they're like, hello to whoever comes next. So I gain from that. I gain a lot. Nice to see her, boy. What's going on, my friend? I haven't seen you for a while.
I was gonna say this is like
amazing.
But you know, except for Infidel, it's like a TNT reunion. Hesher, Ruckus,
yourself.
Simon was
a record, I believe, you know? Infidel has been on TNT once.
Okay, then it's, you know, there you go.
Then here we go. We're on the TNT New Year review. Maybe that's what's going on here. And it was that's a project that I hope I see flourish again in the future and come up again in the future.
I gotta say, it was a hell of a ride. You know, I hung on for 2 years. It was absolutely a hell of a ride. You know, so
yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I was listening to what you were saying there, Hesher, just to make a quick note. And I mean, you are the media. At the same time, that guy was censoring like the article about him and his relationship with Epstein and his training for an Epstein course. I like, it was so cheeky. It was I released it about 4 days before the election, and they started limiting my reach about 2 days before the election, and told me they were limiting it because of spam. It looked like I was spamming people, and then 7 days after the election, they sent me another thing saying we've taken off the limit now because we've decided you haven't spammed anyone. So you are the media, as long as you're saying whatever's good about old glorious master Elon Musk. So he's a dirty rotter. Most of these guys are dirty rotters, and this immigration thing I saw coming a mile off, especially with people like Eric Weinstein, who's trying to spin his roles now, his previous roles at the UN that I also wrote about.
Yeah, you wrote a great
This
piece
might
on
be
that.
good for you, Johnny, ultimately, yes?
What's that? What did you say, sorry?
This might actually ultimately be good for you, because this happens to be something you've been covering lately.
Yeah. I as soon as the election finished, who's that swimmer? Is it her name's Riley Gaines, the one, very famous one? As soon as the election finished, she was on there talking about the importance for legal immigration, and he was posting up around the place, and I felt it really was contrived. They were already trying to push out that message, and I knew that message. It seems that, there's it's no longer Democrat and Republican. It's a selection of Democrats and Republicans on both parties, kind of merging and synthesizing in together, and they're all having like a bit of a pretend. They're pretending what they need to get elected. But once they're elected, they're just, they're saying the truth, and the truth is, we believe in unlimited, unrestricted immigration. It'll be brilliant for everybody, etc. And what people have to see is that Elon Musk is a globalist. I mean, everything that is the globalist view. We know what the globalists want. The globalists want to synthesize all culture into one global culture. Elon Musk wants to synthesize one culture into one global culture. The globalists want some technocratic society. Elon Musk wants a technocratic society. We can see the same patterns over and over again. So I think everybody's going to open their eyes soon. I always try and do journalism that people won't. It seems that they won't accept at the time. I don't try and do that. That's just the way it is. They don't accept it when I first bring it out, and then a year down the line, people are like, "Oh wow, that was prescient. That was important." So, it'd probably be good for me eventually.
Yeah.
They want to, the Babylon project. And just one more note on what Musk is doing. He tweeted out the other day. He said, just 2 days ago, just a reminder that the algorithm is trying to maximize unregretted user seconds if far more credible verified subscriber accounts, not bots, mute or block your account compared to those who like your posts, your reach will decline significantly. And my comment on that is, Elon would like to welcome you to the algorithm ghetto, as I like to say. So it's like the mask has come off now, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, this is why, when people thought that Musk is saving free speech and all this bullshit, right? And been saying this from the very beginning. He bought Twitter. He invested $45 billion. He wants to flip this, and he want to make profit out of it, right? He said it from the very beginning. I want to make it another WeChat, right? He said that, right? So he want to take that 45 and turn it maybe into $500 billion, right? So that's what this is all about. So it's, you have to think about it this way, and then it will all make sense to you. And I think
44, sure, Fidel.
44. Part of this is by him getting people hyped up about the monetary aspect of X and buying into the monetary aspect of X and getting them that for you to get monetized on it, you have to give your ID, you have to do this, you have to do this list of subscription, right?
How much money do you make, Infidel? How much money do you make, Simon from Florida? How much money do you make, Johnny Vedmore? How much money do you make, Hrvoje, posting shit on X? Just a curious question.
Zero. I don't actually
right.
Man.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure you can monetize it properly with when it's people like us.
But hold on. Let me ask at the same time, how much money do you pay for the privilege of having a nice shiny blue check mark next to your fucking name?
Well, I have to say zero because they gave a load of accounts that had a load of blue check marks following them.
Lucky? I have to dish out $8
I have to pay $8 a month.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm making the most of it. They'll take it away.
You got to pay for free speech. So I do pay for my blue check just to be able to post my podcast in full. And I started the road towards monetization. So I didn't put my birth date, and to be able to monetize, you have to first put your birth date, which I did, but public can't see it, but now Twitter has it. And then the next step is, an ID. And I guess it's an Israeli company, right?
Yeah.
That does that. So I haven't taken the full steps.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not a freak like Alison McDowell, who I've interviewed, and she later blocked me and called me dumb for no reason. But anyways, who are like, you're feeding the system. Like, we're using fiat. If you're gonna make that argument where you can't use some of these tools, kind of what Infidel and I were talking about.
Stop using cash.
Yeah. You got to go live literally like what is it, the famous author? You got to go live in the woods, and you can't even use a hammer because that was bought. You buy it from Home Depot, which is probably owned by BlackRock, and so you got to make your own hammer and live in a cabin in the woods. And so I'm just gonna. I feel like this dystopia is inevitable, and so I'm just gonna. I got to make a living, and so if I can make a living, get a few shekels off of X, I'll just make an account, whatever. So,
can I just hop in there and say something? I hope my mic's not too loud. I noticed I turned it down a little bit.
It's a little better.
Good.
Much better.
Something happened that I've not talked about properly publicly, and it was a bit strange. But someone came to me at one point and said to me, and there's a long backstory to this. They said to me, before any blue check mark or anything, they said, how would you like to monetize Twitter or your X? And I thought they meant, monetize my X, how to get on. And they said, no. How would you like to monetize X full stop? And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, I know some people who, because you've been on the Mario Narthwal rooms, because you've been on the X Spaces at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of 2024, I was on, they made me basically central to a load of the X Spaces with people like Alex Jones, Rudy Giuliani on, and it was like I was staying on there for like 6 to 8 hours, and it was just it was great exposure, boosted up my follower count by 15,000 in like one night. It was all very nice for me. But someone came to me after and said, well, you've met these people now. How would you like to do that? And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, I know this company who are looking to get in contact with Elon Musk's people. And they're a payment platform that is trying to get him to incorporate these like tap tip payment option on X. So basically you tap your phone if you want to, when someone's on an X space, or if you like someone's account, you tap your phone and you tip them some sort of money. And it turned out it was some like Israeli company. Now this person it seems like a very nice person, but I mean, that's super suspicious. They were trying to sell me on the idea of going to Mario Narthwal and Elon Musk's people and convincing them to buy some Israeli technology. And I was like, and incorporate it fully into X. And I was like, why the fuck would you come to me for that shit? Dude. Why would you expect me? This was probably like about April time, March, maybe a little bit before. And this company, I looked at them. They like the guy had been in the guy's been in loads of other companies. They're all Unit 8200 linked, and it was like they were trying. That was the moment. So I had like I'm a troublesome reporter. I'm so fiercely independent in my work, and I've never accepted editorial control, and that is massive trouble. And people always said, "Oh, someone's going to try and infiltrate you," and they come along, and I think that was the attempt to infiltrate me on behalf of those people. What they did is they put me as a central person on these X spaces so everybody saw my face, and then someone else come along and said, hey, how would you like to get in touch with Elon Musk's people? Now you've already had communication, swap our details, and etc. And my answer was, you can go fuck yourself. I had no way in. I mean, I sat listening to the whole thing, the whole spiel, for about half an hour to an hour with my mouth wide open in shock that it was even being said to me. Like someone would think that. And 2 days later, it was being reported that this company was in touch with Elon Musk's people. So they were already had the ability to go and speak with Elon Musk's people. They already had the ability. But they need to co-opt people who aren't playing ball right now. Is that there's going to be so much more. 2025 is like fifth generation holdout co-opt year. You know, they're looking for the holdouts, and they're going to be looking to fundamentally undermine people's voices, and they've been doing that all along. So I that's part of what the X spaces are. But I thought that would be a useful addition of my own experience over the past year of something crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah,
we read that quote from David Icke earlier, where I'm just what you're talking about, Johnny, is that I feel like a lot of alt media, it's this grift where they've, like you either stay independent, like we do, and less wealthy, or you're offered that jump to that club, and we've seen people do that. Like I'll throw out names. I don't care. Like Luke Rudkowski's, Tim Pool's. I don't know what you think, Johnny, but Alex Jones made that Endgame documentary speaking out against the North American Union 15 years ago, and he's tweeting now, let's have Canada and US join. And I'm like, what? Greg Reese quit InfoWars because of that. It's just kind of like, what's going on?
So I want to separate two things: the North America alliance and annexing Canada to be a 51st state. These are two different things. I'm all for that. If those Canadians want to join us as our 51st state, you're more than welcome, guys. We're just gonna cancel luge. We're not gonna do that shit here in America. So we're not luging.
Oh man, no! What you talk like proper street luge?
All right, actually,
I'm actually for street luge, man. I'm for it.
Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so I have a clip here that Hrvoje dropped us about this North American Union thing. I want to play it, but before I do, I want to go to Simon for a second. Simon, we've covered a bit of ground here, but in particular, I'd be curious to hear your take on this situation with X and where you think this all goes, because I know you've been monitoring this whole thing too.
Well, I think the specific issue is a massive distraction. And I think there's a lot more going on that people should be immediately more concerned about. But it certainly is causing a great deal of friction, obviously, particularly between Laura Loomer and Musk. And it's very unfortunate that Trump has kind of unequivocally come out in support of Musk, such that may have antagonized quite a section of his base who aren't possibly understanding all of the nuances. But it is an ongoing irony that you've got the US government, as it still exists, complaining about Musk violating security safeguards for his space and defense related projects, at the same time as they're accusing him of not taking in people from all ethnic backgrounds, irrespective of whether or not they have US citizenship or the necessary security clearances to work in his classified projects.
Yeah.
It's like completely impossible for him to win, given that he's been prosecuted for doing either the right thing or the wrong thing. And I think there's a distinct possibility that he just decides that he's had enough. If there's suddenly a big groundswell against him, he may just throw up his hands and say, fix it yourself. But, I think it's indicative with Trump talking about this massive increase in defense spending, McConnell talking about a massive increase in price spending, and that article he wrote called The Price of Retreat for Foreign Affairs. This came out last week. And so The fact that Trump wanted either the debt ceiling to be suspended for 2 years, or that it be increased $5 trillion over 2025 and 2026 would certainly indicate that he doesn't seem to have much faith in Elon's ability to cut $2 trillion a year of federal spending off. Otherwise, why would he be asking for permission to increase the national debt by $5 trillion?
So I think this committee of this Doge thing, I mean, all what they can do are recommendation, right? Because it's not that they are a ministry or they have actually executive power. All what they do is just recommendation, and at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, I think, to either, if they want to abolish certain things, it has to go back to the Congress, or it has to go back to the executive branch, which will be Trump, and he has to execute it. So, like, what's going to get executed from the recommendation, I have no idea. But either way, they're not going to be able to save that much. Like,
yeah,
go ahead, Ash.
That's the thing about this whole Doge thing. I think people are like imagining some like taxpayer funded, like, you know, giant organization, and really it's just a fucking meme farm. It's just Eli and his Twitter account. I mean, all they can do is make recommendations, as far as I can tell. I don't think him and Vivek Ramaswamy have like the kind of, you know, pull to do anything other than troll on the internet and maybe like come up with some, you know, stupid report about low-hanging fruit, you know, that could be trimmed out of the government. They sure as hell won't be going after that $1 trillion a year DOD budget. They certainly won't be going after the black budgets of the, you know, all these things that are under the DNI umbrella, you know, NSA, CIA, all those IA things. So it's like, and they certainly won't be. It just, to me, I almost feel like the whole Doge thing is much like the meme coin. It's a giant troll, and they're not going to be an effective piece of the government at all. I don't know. It just doesn't. I think people are making it out to be this, like, you know, government bureau, and it's not.
No, it is not.
It could be a tool. It could be a tool for Trump to offset the stuff that he wants to do is going to be unpopular to someone else. So I get a feeling what it's going to be is Elon, like, for instance, right, we hear all of the debate now rumbling up. Everybody's starting to say, wait a minute, what they're saying, like, as many immigrants as possible and all of this. Well, that's going to be unpopular. Trump ain't going to want to do it. But if Doge recommend it, then all of the things Trump don't want to do, well, they're recommending it on the side. So it's going. We'll be able to cut spending on law enforcement for the border and things like this, and we'll look at doing slightly different. We'll recommend that instead of having a border wall or something else, which you find popular, which your base is the reason why you were voted in these sort of policies. We'll find reasons why to say, hey, you know, we can cut those. We could just cut those. We can cut everything, and it's us who's doing it, not Trump.
Yeah, no, it's actually a good point. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to execute anything. It has to be done through actual either through the Congress or
have to agree on it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless we go hog wild with EOs, you know, there's always that possibility. I mean, look at what happened in 2020.
Speaking about EOs, I heard that Joe Biden signed like about 50 EOs on Christmas Eve. I have no idea what they are.
Oh, dude!
I heard he signed 50 of them. So
I tell you what, Joe Biden is like asleep somewhere, or, you know, eating ice cream, and
he's having a shower with Hunter. He's in the shower with Hunter right now. And it's true.
There's a legion of nameless, unelected weirdos running around right now, tying up loose ends, writing final checks, doing as many crazy deals as they can, sending their black bag people off to do Lord knows what, Lord knows where. While, you know, we've got all these wars popping off everywhere. I saw an explosion out of Syria today. People are claiming it was some sort of small thermonuclear device. I don't know if that's fake news or what, but some shocking footage. These whatever is going on right now, in the short term, in the next 25 days, is a whole bunch of scrambling, a whole bunch of paper shredding, a whole bunch of server magneting. All that stuff is going on right now. And, the financial money laundering must just be insane. They're cutting new checks to Israel, new checks to Ukraine, special ops going places. We got, fleet members going places. All kind of crazy stuff is happening to wrap up this 4 years. And I think those things, if they were honest with us, would be really, like, if we actually had a real mainstream media that was doing journalism and had the kind of gumption and integrity as this group and many of you out there watching this program, we would have so much interesting stuff hearing about how this is all going down. But they don't want to cover any of that stuff, and even on X, you're not going to find that sort of geopolitical intrigue or national power politic. I mean, this is probably the grandest show going on ever right now of cutting checks, tying up loose ends, bumping people off. Some might even wager seeing some narratives that might support.
Hey, they took out Kirillov, the Russian who said that COVID was basically a U.S. operation to bring about world government. That was my original thesis from 2020, and the Russians said it was the British. It's always the British. So, anyways.
Yeah, all the big countries can point their fingers at each other too, and it's like, even before COVID happened, like when we had when Diliana Gitanyeva was on Sunday Wire with us and Patrick Henningsen, we knew there were these weird biolabs in countries all over the world. There's 20 of them in specific countries all over Europe and all over the place. And the money trail has always been there for those things. And the mythology of, the contagion mythology has always been there. It's just but the thing is, now it's institutionalized, and now every country can point at the other country and say, look, you got money coming from NAID and HHS and blah, blah, blah. And, this demon over here, he's like another Fauci. And, we got another one of these over here. It's whipped up by some, terror organization or something like that. It's just there's this whole system of finger pointing that can now happen. It's the same with the cyber polygon stuff. All of that can be spoofed and faked, and any narrative, any red versus blue narrative, country narrative can be propagated around that thing. And it's we just have this endless, these institutions that have created themselves on these narratives now give us this Orwellian endless war concept of, wars on terror, wars on viruses, and they can be weaponized or they can be zoonotically or, all these different, every single little fucking conspiracy theory that one might gravitate towards is available and is not mutually debunked by all the other ones. We're in a total mess as far as that pandemic industrial complex that formed around COVID narrative, because now everybody knows there's labs all over the world, all over the place.
I'm humming as you're saying this. I'm humming because I'm just I'm finishing off a piece I've been working on for 2.5 years. I've been just been something I've been desperate to get out, and it goes back to the 1800s and to virus and pandemic research by the establishment figures, and then goes all the way kind of through, and is a direct connection between the two, familial connection, which is quite amazing. Because I'm currently, this article is about a man called Reginald Anstruther Farrar, Farrar spelt the last name of Jeremy Farrar, and you go back to 1910, 1911, and you see the Manchurian outbreak of pneumonic plague. It was devastating, and these biolabs you're talking about now that are all organized all over the place, these were just people before, just a couple of the top heads, the people who knew the most about these and wanted to spread this ideology, and they just take the lab to wherever they were going, and they were doing all sorts of experiments. And then we have like this amazing amount of illnesses come out afterwards over the next like 17 years, especially, including things like that sleeping disorder that just disappeared at some point. And these labs were mobile. But the other thing I just want to touch on what you were just saying there very quickly, that idea that there's going to be some sort of ICBM, some sort of nuclear massive destruction going to happen. I've done so much research on this when I was doing the Schwab stuff on mutually assured destruction on Herman Kahn. And it's just like you go into it and it's like there's layers and levels of what happens in case this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, and they already know where we are. And if you actually study that, we are in an area, and I can't remember what it's called. It's called something like draw theory, where you get to a point where you all other possibilities of maintaining the dynamics of mutually assured destruction and not using nuclear weapons, at some point all of those have to fail. They have to go through all of the different processes and decide none of them have been effective anymore due to technology and the way people advance in how they respond to these things. So then it's likely there will be small nuclear explosions happening on either side, and it will be like one fires a small tactical nuke at a really big target, and then they fire another one back, and then they fire another one back, and then they fire another back, and then they say draw. And it sounds simple to us. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be like massive cities blowing up. Just the use of tactical nukes would cause the entire world dynamic to shift and change again. People in power would be able to gain more power, grasp more power, put in more acts, and really just turn us into the Orwellian nightmare that they definitely already want us to be.
Yeah. Did you see the footage of the explosion in Syria?
Not yet.
Let me see if I can find that.
While you're looking, I just want to add to what Johnny said. I was reading this book, Building the City of Man, from the 1970s. This is an academic book. The guy's a disciple of H.G. Wells, and basically, I've been trying to write an article. I'm just busy with podcasts and stuff, but essentially, boil it down, he says we need to depopulate, we need to install a technocracy, and we need a world government. And just exactly what you said, Johnny. He says in this book that we can launch a series of wars to get people to freak him out, to give up their sovereignty. And this has been my thesis. I'm on the fence where I think the elites, again, everything that we're talking about, the goal is world government. That's the end goal. Everything else that we're talking about is a pretext. The climate change quote, the quote pandemic stuff, the quote threat of nuclear war. And I could see them launching mini nukes, or even, some people have estimated, if you quantify World War I, World War II, if we did a third world war, the casualties would be in the billions, 1 or 2 billion. They're crazy enough to do that. I mean, that just checks off so many lists. And then they can then say, they get their financial reset, Bretton Woods 3.0, install all the digital stuff, depopulate, and world government, either modify the UN or create a new, BRICS. BRICS can be, they're talking about BRICS Parliament. That can be world government 3.0. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. Fun times.
We're all so positive in here. We're all so positive.
Didn't deliver it as funny as the comedian, but yeah. All right, I found it. I'm still not convinced. I still wonder if this is fake news or not. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'll show you guys anyways. share this thread here, and where'd it go? There we go. From an account MHDKSAFA. Remember that bomb in Syria about 10 days ago that caused a 3.0 Richter scale level shockwave? Today, sources confirmed that Israel tested a small tactical nuclear bomb in Syrian, which was explained by the high level of radiation in Cyprus and Mersin. Satellite images showed that a part of the mountain about 70 meters wide had disappeared, and tree leaves were evaporated with a radius of about 1 kilometer. And then there's an image there. And they say, this is not Hiroshima, this is not Gaza, this is Syria now. I don't know. I was still unsure about that one, but wondered if any of you guys had seen.
I think it's plausible. I mean, lately, I think we have to be very cautious and not jumping the gun. By the way, National Security Archive, which is a great resource, they dropped 3 new declassified documents. One of them was on Mexico. The other was on Dimona, 1960s Israel nuclear project, Dimona, which was interesting. And so, yeah, I think Israel has these capabilities. I mean, Lebanon, right? What was that? A couple of years back, that warehouse that blew up in Lebanon.
Yeah,
it was a ship. It was in storage.
Something, yeah. I don't doubt that governments like Israel and others are testing tactical, mini nukes or these new weapons that they got. Yeah.
And they're unlisted, right? As far as countries that have to sort of, be in the treaties and list what their stockpiles are. Like there's some weird exemption that Israel has on that, if I've understood correctly.
It's not official. Yeah. They've got a couple hundred nukes, but they're officially,
They get away with everything for some reason. Just happens that way. It seems like they're lucky every single time. Seems like they got friends in high places, I would say. I after there's like a simplistic view of nuclear warfare as well, because you talk to a lot of people and they think like 1, 2, 3, 4 nukes would ruin the world and all, and they've done a lot of like play on this. They've tried, and people don't really know there's been like about 2,000 nuclear explosions that we know of since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it's like the world has withstood or been withstanding some form of nuclear attack right now. We might explain the amount of illness, the amount of the increase in thyroid diseases and things like that we've actually seen. Remember, 1 in 50, I think it is, women in most Western places will contract a thyroid disease in every year, and that's pretty heavy. So I would assume that there's a lot of pollutants in the air because they've already been doing it to us slowly. The difference will be that visual, that look like a town or a city, just exploding would be enough to, like Hrvoje said, just change the dynamics of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick thought. I mean, I don't think we should spend too much time on this, but in alternative media, everything's fake. Tartaria, Earth is flat, viruses don't exist. And maybe some of you guys subscribe to that, but you get what I'm saying. Just like nothing is real, everything is fake and gay. And they talk about nukes, and I just can't go that far because, again, I go back to my experience. I lived in Kazakhstan, and I lived near the principal Soviet nuclear test site, which I actually visited. Few people get to visit. 18,000 square kilometers, the polygon. Stalin dropped the first nuke in 1949 there, and they dropped supposedly, right, 500 plus bombs from 1949 to 1990 on the polygon. And I had 2 Geiger counters. I went out there with the scientists, and I stood on the ground zero. It was radioactive patch of land. They had mock subways and metros. Like, we went underground into these mock metros where they built them, over the span of half a century to, when they did the nuclear tests. And, people come out and say nukes don't exist. And I'm just like, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I don't buy the nuclear winter theory. I mean, I think if they drop tactical mini nukes or nukes, millions of people will die. But like you mentioned Japan, Johnny, I think we can rebuild. It's going to be horrible, but it's not going to be like, the end of the world. Just any thoughts on that sort of argument? Nukes don't exist.
Well, I loved this. I actually love this. I love nukes don't exist, dinosaurs don't exist, space is completely.
Oh, don't steal the dinosaurs,
I love
man.
all
That's
these.
not that's
I
not
love
good.
all these. I really do. And it's not that I completely buy into any of them. Many of them I think are ridiculous, but the further, like the older I get and the more like psyop that's peeled back, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna leave a little door open in my heart and in my mind for my flat earth friends and my dinosaurs aren't real friends and my no virus people, which I proudly belong to. I'll wear that one for sure. And it's like, but any of those, I'm always open to change my mind. Like I had to change my mind many times to even get to where I am right now. And it's like the door's open, but it's like, I'm not going to put myself in the position where I have to fight hard for one of those. You know what I mean? It's like, I got my eye on other things and it's like, okay, these things are going on the side. It's like I'm watching those like a spectator pretty much and just going, oh, this is getting spicy. I love it when they fight or when they want to fight with me or, I find the whole thing very interesting. And I love the skepticism. And there was probably a younger version of me by a few years that would be cheering all this on, like the hardcore black pilling. But it's just like after more than a decade doing this, it's like, I can only take so many black pills. So, and the other thing is you end up like, if you really go hard on one of those, in either way and trying to shut it down or like be a part of it, it feels like you kind of just lose your opportunity to speak to a larger audience of people. And I struggle with that because I really enjoy a lot of these topics that are out there and weird and just like, wait, what? That would change history. That means all these other things are screwed. It's like the existential stuff and the crypto, stuff, like all that. I find all that stuff really fun, but like my eye's really on the prize, and that's keeping everybody sane and protected from this fuckwit mainstream media and these horrible algorithms that are really wrecking us, and giving us a society that breeds all these situations that, give us all these things to talk about. So maybe the earth is flat, dinosaurs aren't real, nukes are fake, maybe it's all fake. But it's like the other thing is, once you go down that path, you get to you hit the wall of like burnout, nihilism. There's just like you just kind of end up in this place where it's like, okay, I mean, some people can really integrate it into a very complicated worldview, a very intellectual, complicated worldview. I get that. That's cool. More power to them. They may be smarter than me. But by and large, it seems to kind of lead to a lot of cul-de-sacs instead of a place where you can, really reach out to more people. At least that's what I hope.
Maybe it's just the abused also enacting abuse. So they're being abused by giving loads of fake news propaganda all of the time, and then they're now doing the same thing back, and it's literally projected out. Everything's fake. So the thing that they're seeing inside them and they're projecting out is everything's fake. Everything's
You're right
fake.
about so many things.
Fake.
So many things are fake, like provably so many things are fake, or at least, beyond shadow of doubt, like we're suspicious. But another fundamental problem with the over black pilling and everything is fake. I hate to say this, but it attracts a lot of schizophrenic people. Schizophrenic people love everything is fake. They absolutely gravitate towards it, and you'll end up in a mosh pit of like borderline psychosis sometimes.
Well, and it's all.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, and it also like cast shadows and doubt on actually real things, right? And it's used by mainstream media and other things to just label everybody just nutcases and and discredit everybody. So this also sometimes some of those theories are pushed as a way more to get people. Yeah, exactly. Get people to buy into it, to start discrediting other things that are actually true.
I mean, I here's just another example: the whole Jewish question, and there's room for academic, honest discussion when it comes to numbers, right, Holocaust, and all that. But I do a podcast on Latin America. I had on Marianne Gebauer. She's a Canadian financial investor in Costa Rica, and one of my listeners emails me, when were the first Holocaust extermination camps? And I'm like, it's like that meme, like nobody, when were the first Holocaust extermination camps? And I'm like, I've done enough research. I'm a Slav. I'm a Croat. My grandpa was a prisoner of the Croatian Nazi regime for 6 months. He was held in a hole in the ground. I've read primary source. I've listened to some of Hitler's speeches where, like Slavs were considered Untermensch for slave labor and doing away with. So it's like, there's enough credible evidence to say, there's nothing good of Nazism and Hitler. We can debate the nuances of how many Jews were died, but I think there were Jews that were killed and stuff. And it's just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? It just goes to your point. Hesher, there's a lot of schizophrenia. I get listeners who say, I've heard from listeners that they do daily like protocols where they've got like magic amulets and wands where every meal that they eat, they're wanding away the EMFs and then doing these protocols for vaccine sheddings. And I'm like,
yep,
I can't live like that, It's like, what?
Yeah, I think we all know the type. I mean, it's unfortunate too, it really sucks, and I don't know what to say about it, man. It just is it's part and parcel of like this phase of social media, I guess, and doing stuff online. Tell you what, let me play this clip. Let's insert it right now, because why not? Here we go.
North American Union.
Yeah, this is about the North American Union here.
Let's talk about Canada first, Mexico first, U.S. first. What happens if we all pursue our own self-interest to the exclusion of everyone else?
Unfortunately, I think it will be very much trouble. Because if we started to talk about just Mexico, just Canada, just the U.S., it is going to be a narrative. It is a populist narrative in the three cases that might get them higher approval ratings in domestic policy, but unfortunately, it will create a lot of tension in the renegotiation of the agreement, of the trilateral agreement. What we need is to start thinking again in a North American region. We need that in order to confront China. If we want really to have a policy that can confront China and other actors, important actors in trading in the world, we need to think about the region. And North America is a very important region in the world. It is one of the most important regions, trade regions in the world. So if we break that out, it is going to be the worst thing for our own country.
Well, except that Donald Trump thinks of America first. He campaigned on America first. He won on America first. How do you get the leader of the United States, who's an America firster, to start thinking continentally?
So this is where I have to disagree with Infidel, because if you go back, I just did this 2-hour interview with Richard Poe where he could sort of, you look at the Cecil Rhodes, the Round Table, the Milner Group, all these people where they explicitly for a century plus have talked about a British Commonwealth global government. And the way to do that is regional unions. The EU is a prototype. There are and there's many iterations of this. Carnegie wrote about it. Clarence Strait, I mentioned earlier. So they specifically talk about creating an Atlantic Union where they integrate Britain, Canada, and USA to create a regional union. And so I feel like MAGA You know, when I first heard Trump talk about let's make Mexico and USA the 51st and 52nd state, it's like he's using this nationalist conservative lingo to sell the same globalist project to the conservatives. But he's just using nationalist lingo, and I just can't not unsee it. You know, this is a British globalist scheme, age-old scheme, you know, to integrate Canada, USA. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like Poe. I'm a big fan of Richard Poe. Just say that.
I think the Brits can go fuck themselves. We're not joining you again. We left you for a reason. Stay the fuck away from us.
Cool.
Listen,
Sorry.
I just gotta say, it is definitely the English. You gotta understand this. From when you get over to Britain, there's a very small, and it's not even just the English. The English don't even know who they are. I mean that with the utmost respect. But if they went and they had a look, they could type it in. It's really interesting. It was a study in 2014. I've talked about this a couple of times. Grandparents of British people from all different regions had the genetics tested, and they looked at the haplotypes and the different ancestry. And Britain hasn't really changed in 1,500 years. The Cornish are genetically the Cornish. The Devonians are genetically the Devonians. There's 5 different types of genetics in Wales, and we all know we're different. And in England, there's the Humber people, and there's the Lancs, and there's the people of the Elmet up north. They're all still in the same places as they were 1,500 years ago. But down in the southeast, down by London, there are a load of North French guys, who invaded at one point and just stayed there. And genetically, like the majority of the southeast of England is genetically French. And I think it's not fair to say Britain in the whole. I know this is a much more expansive view, but the Welsh and the Scottish and the Irish and the Northern Irish, who inhabit sort of like this region, we see ourselves different as those people from London. And I think those people are genetically from the north of France. They're William the Conqueror's guys. They're a mixture between Normans, Franks, and Vikings. Ancestors of Rollo to that extent, and successful spreading their ideologies.
There you go. We just watched Robert Eager's Northman last night, by the way. Speaking of the Nordics, have you seen that, man? That's a cool movie. That's worth watching, dude.
Yeah. I bet. They're really. I mean, that period. I just quickly note like that royal. There was the moment that changed Western history for me is the ceding of the coast to Rollo. King Rollo by the Frankish kings, and that created William the Conqueror and etc. just about 3 generations down the line, and how he installed dominance in Britain just echoed through time and across the world eventually. So it's one of the most important moments in history where these royal bloodlines, this elitism was really inserted and took full control of the region. And it was a mixture between the Normans, the Frankish, and that, the Viking ancestors of Rollo are just so important, really important.
Yeah, and that kind of set the stage for what became modern Atlanticist imperialism, right? And that's sort of what we're at the pointy edge of right now, if we do kind of consider, that we are essentially a North Atlantic Union. NATO is basically that. It's running at the behest of not we the people, but of oligarchs, of those bankers, of those bloodlines, those very same bloodlines. They persist, and they are, largely, when you start peeling all, zoom out far enough, these bloodlines and these paths to imperialism all lead back to the United States, all lead back to London, all lead back to Israel, right? You've got the whole thing there. And then you'd see the Greater Israel Project / PNAC plan, what Wesley Clark warned us about years ago. And what's the last piece in that puzzle for them? War with Iran, right? And that circles back to what Simon came in talking about today, and what we discussed with him last time we were here. While we have all these crazy media toys to play with, all these buzzing lights and notifications and X feeds and X spaces and power politics and war and genocide and trench warfare and ethnic cleansing, oncoming technocracy. Like, this is it. This is what the near end point to their proposed plans for globalization, using an imperialistic, militarized set of tactics, techniques, and procedures to get to where we're at in the Middle East right now, which is, a very destabilized place that once it gets further destabilized, you can already see the pieces moving into place. So it's an interesting historical side note there, Johnny, but I'm glad Infidel said that, and it kind of led us to this, because I feel like we're watching the culmination of the Crusades basically right now.
We're watching, we're watching a history unfold, of course, and so in that case, then it's predictable, and we can follow it through and write lots of articles about it. That's what that's what we tend to do. we like trying to piece it all together and make sense of it, because the world looks like messy at the moment. It's not be different any time throughout history, though. So, and it'll be the same in the future too. Humans are extremely messy creatures. We're not going to change anytime soon.
They are, absolutely, we are. And part of the issue that we're actually facing is with the tools we have right now, humans became more dangerous, because those shitty humans that back in the days, all what they can do is just exert some control over like a local village somewhere, by just imprisoning people or just burning them alive. Now you have much more tools in your hand, and your impact is much larger, right? And I think that's part of the danger. But the principle it is, and what is the force that's governing this, which is human greed and lust for power, and how messy humans are, that is not changing.
There's nothing new under the sun, Ecclesiastes.
That's right.
It's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. What else, man?
So can we pull that article I sent you?
Oh, would that
the one? Yeah, the one I sent earlier. If you want to switch to that, if not, we can continue.
All right. Well, let me just go around the room real quick. We're about to take a turn here. Anybody want to throw anything else out? As we covered a lot of ground there, but if anyone wants to throw anything else in, no. All right. Well, here we go into this one. Infidel dropped me this. Health officials investigating possible link between Ozempic and eye rotting condition. This is almost icebreaker worthy, Infidel. My goodness. This is the kind of story that we could open with over here. So the manufacturer of Ozempic is a Novo Nordisk, I suppose, and they must have some of the most valuable stock on the market these days, because these semaglutide drugs seem to be all the rage right now. What do you think about this one, Infidel? I've heard that some of this. I looked at the side effects on these things, and I've heard liver damage. Just it's like watching any commercial basically for a product these days. It's like, whoa, those are some pretty scary potential trade-offs you might have to go through there, but I haven't heard of this one yet.
It's a big list. So that specific one is came out from 2 studies that were done, and if you read through it, basically there is a condition where that basically drug triggers lack of blood going to the optical nerve, which led to blindness and loss of eyesight.
Yikes.
Elon
but-
Musk rubbing his hands together.
The good thing, though, if you look at the last statement, however, vision loss from go back up. Sorry, the last statement in the page you were in. Yeah, this vision loss from neon is typically sudden and painless and affects only one eye at a time. So don't worry.
Just wearing an eye patch.
I mean, that's a happy accident. It's quick and painless. You lost your eye, but it's quick and painless. So.
You'll look like Dan Crenshaw,
Yeah. And what do they mean by that's strange wording, Infidel? What do they mean by one eye at a time? Does that mean you lose one and you're just waiting for the next?
That's right. That's exactly what they mean.
Waiting for eye.
You're gonna get like a week in between, so that's all right.
Sounds like a horror movie. Ruckus says, Ruckus, are you with us? Or are you smoking? He says he covered this one in his special 2 Deadly Drugs recently. You can find all your daily Ruckuses at alternatecurrentradio.com.
It's amazing because this is one of the drugs they try to rebrand, right? For the weight loss.
Quick,
Yeah,
I
go
gotta
ahead.
bounce, guys. I'm not feeling so good.
All right,
But
Ruckus.
yes, I covered on the 12 days of Ruckus, day 2 deadly drugs. The one of the 2 deadly drugs was Ozempic. And there is some new evidence that has just come out about the blindness thing, but I wanted to mention real quick, that's not even the most important news of recent about Ozempic. The more important thing, as far as I'm concerned, which I mentioned on my show, is that they have recently discovered that it is reducing skeletal muscle mass.
Yeah, dude. Bone density.
Which, when you look into what reduced skeletal muscle mass means, that means a serious reduction in your immune system, which is probably not a good thing to be going through during flu season. Just saying.
Yeah.
But hey, thank you guys so much for joining us. Johnny, Hrvoje, Simon from Florida. I love you guys. I, of course, love all the Boiler Room regulars like Hesher and Infidel Pharaoh. Daniel Spaulding, sad that Jamie and Jay weren't able to join us, as well as some of the other regulars, but I have to bounce because I don't feel so good.
All right,
so
Ruckus.
Happy New Year, everybody. And as far as the Daily Ruckus is concerned, I have a new one coming out tomorrow and a new one every single day until the 12 days of Ruckus is complete on the 12th day of Ruckus, the 12th day of Christmas, which is January 12th. So what that means is ultimately that starting tomorrow, the 5th day of Ruckus matches the 5th day of Christmas. So wrap your head around that one, boys and girls. All right. But I got to go because I don't feel so good. So
All right.
thank you guys.
All
God
right.
bless.
Get
Happy
well.
New Year.
All right.
Cheers, man. Hopefully feel better.
Yeah, man. All right. There goes Ruckus. Yes, and those daily Ruckuses. All right. AlternateCurrentRadio.com. That's our website. Let's take a moment here and thank everybody for the comments and everything over there in the Discord, on the Rockfin chat, the YouTube chat, the Rumble chat, the X chat. I think that's all of them. Maybe there's some in the Spreaker chat too. I can't mind them all, but yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight. If you joined us late, you missed a great intro to the show, so go back and check it out. Show will be up at alternatecurrentradio.com shortly after the live stream tonight, and we have a great Sunday Wire lined up for you tomorrow. Patrick Henningsen, I'm going to be there with him in the Overdrive segment, and we had I think we've got Arno Devilay joining us also, so it's going to be an awesome Sunday Wire. I'm sure we're going to talk about this whole fracturing in the MAGA, between the MAGA and the tech bros, so that'll be really interesting. Join us for Sunday Wire for sure. Tomorrow going to be a banger. I have a feeling it's going to be an epic episode. What else? Okay, back to the Ozempic thing. Dude, so many people are on this. And so many people seem to really be into it. At first, I don't know. I know people that take it and are happy with it. But I worry about their trust in this when it has, said things listed as potential side effects. That makes you worry for any of your people that are thinking about taking these.
Are the people they are on it for the actual indication or for weight loss?
Weight loss.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm one of those people that I was 360 pounds back in 2007. And I lost 185 pounds.
Ooh.
I did not use any drugs or anything like that. And I can tell you that anybody that think that weight loss is a magical thing that's gonna happen through a pill is in for a big surprise. That's not gonna last, and it's not the way to go. It has to be through discipline. It has through basically changing really habits. That's how you lose weight.
I'm going to make a slightly. It's opposing, not in. You'll understand what I mean, but I used to suffer from Graves' disease, so I went down to, before it was diagnosed, I went down to 8.5 stone, and I was like on my way out. I was about to go, and I would have accepted any drug they promised me would have helped me put on weight, any weight. Because I was like getting so thin, I was checking out. I would have accepted something that would do the reverse, So I can understand. I get superficial about these things, like everybody. I get like, oh, why would you get? But it's just like so important to feel like you're the right size, the right shape, and everything is amazing for the mental health. And I can understand how they can use people like this, but I rot. Not in. I'm not in.
No thanks. I'll pass. I don't know. Everybody, let me know how it goes. But yeah, that's gonna be a big pass on my part.
Down here here in Mexico where I am, Ozempic, not even a thing.
Are housewives like trafficking it, like picking it up at Mexican pharmacies and stuff?
I don't know. I don't think it's even here. I have no idea. It's like it's another planet for me. Another issue on another planet. I don't know. I'm trying to just survive, not having my head chopped off. That's all.
Yeah. That would probably be, preferable.
There's a lot of chubby women in Mexico. I just want to say there are a lot of chubby women.
Mexico's like number 2 for obesity. Coca-Cola, fast food, all that stuff. But
some of them pretty.
Hey, I married one. I was gonna ask you.
Don't say that out loud.
Well, no, she's not. She's a thin lady, but Patrick, how's Patrick though? He had a issue in this over the summer, like a heart issue or something. Is he all right? What's and we're not doing TNT anymore, so just any news on Mr.
Yeah, definitely. He that happened, gosh, what was that, back in July or something like that? He had a full-on deal, cardiac deal, and it was pretty scary, man. It was scary for a minute there. Luckily he got really good care and had really good doctors and surgeons and was able to take a hiatus, and he's doing great now. He appears to be doing really good, and he's Ruckus and I and Basil and some of our guests kind of filled the slot for him on Sunday Wire while he was recovering, and he's lost weight. I think his voice is projecting really good. He's on the top of his game. He's back on the Sunday Wire every week, and spending a lot of time on Twitter Spaces, and 21 Wire's humming along, and Sunday Wire has really evolved into a really professional looking video broadcast. I'm really pleased that all of us got so much camera time at TNT. I feel like that really upped all of our game. A lot of us, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of us we're alternate current radio. We didn't come in to be a on air personality, on camera personality. Was never really interested in that. Never really interested in even having my my government name out there. I was just interested in having the conversations. But after doing it so long and seeing the way anonymous accounts behave and should be perceived by people, it was like, you know what, screw all that. Especially when I got the job at TNT, it was like, all right, we're going full audio, video, full government names, all that stuff. And I think that developed, at least for me, speaking for me personally, and I know for Patrick as well, because I've worked with him for so long, that that has greatly upped our game as far as media presenting has gone. So Sunday Wire's looking really good. Patrick's looking really good. You guys are looking really good. I love both you guys' output. Simon as well. Like, you guys are all super valuable in the X sphere and the independent media sphere. The alternative media is now something that has been diluted with a lot of corporate interests. So I think there's a big dividing line between independent journalism, independent broadcasting, and media. And it's like Johnny, like you said earlier, it's like most people wouldn't hire guys like us. Big shout out to Mike Ryan, because most people wouldn't hire guys like us that refuse to have editorialization thrust upon them.
Oh, my friend, like dream come true material. I was
Yeah.
like, I spent nearly all of my journalistic career trying to work out what is the thing that is going to get me in the end. What's the thing that I've got to sell off to be able to produce work to a large amount of people or to a large space? And every time I've seen it, I've been like, I just can't do it. And then I realized I'm not going to do it. And it's like dream come true stuff. It's like someone comes along and says, zero editorial control, and that was so amazing. That experience of writing my own shows, deciding who I wanted on, asking the questions I want, and not having one little pullback meant I was just like, for me, it was just it gave me a reason to wake up every day and work really hard to write a show and to look at what was coming up, and it gave me a bit of professionalism, like you say, up the game. But I want to say, listen, if you think Mike Ryan and Jenny just going to give up, I just don't believe it. Those people, whatever you may think about them, and I love them for the fact they've given me complete freedom and only been nice to me. I've not experienced anything else, and they have been relentless, and I think they will continue to be relentless. I don't think there's any giving up coming. So I'm hoping to see that platform or a platform like it rise again in the near future, because we need something like that. It was just so beautiful, man. It's so beautiful.
Do you have any news? Like they announced the Pulse today. They did some test interviews and then they stopped. And any idea what's going to go on with that?
I do. I heard through the grapevine, and I do hear from Mike every now and again, that it is basically ready to go. I mean, the Pulse is going to happen, and they've got a skeleton crew there working furiously to make sure that the relaunch and the rebranding is exactly the way that they want it. And you guys know what a perfectionist the TNT management team is. So yeah, some of the people that we know well are there, and I want to say are building it, but maybe have built it. I really get the impression that it's the same humming machine that it was, with a new look and new branding, and a lot of our favorite colleagues and hopefully us will be invited back as part of it. I mean, Johnny, your and my faces are on that website. You can go there right now, pulse.today and thepulse.today, and see what they got going. I know they've been working on the website and the broadcast platform. I think probably, I don't know for sure, but I know if it were me in that position, the hardest part is figuring out how to do the business back end of it. That part is like blows my mind. You know what I mean? As like, because for us, it was like we wanted that, so we had to build it. We had to make ACR, you know, and find a place to mount our podcast. And you know, then we knew that nobody would be editorializing us. But you know, you're in a small fish in a big pond. Maybe you don't have the business acumen and the shrewd nature it takes to monetize that. And you know, you build that over years and years. And as social media evolves, that builds over years and years, and viewership grows and all that stuff. But then, you know, Mike Ryan comes along, and for me, it's been very difficult to you know, maintain like a group of independent thinkers over a long period of time that are all pretty much just pouring their energy in because they're passionate about it. You know, like it's a hard trudge. And then an opportunity like that comes along, someone with the business acumen and the vision and the ability to manage enough hosts to run it 24/7. That's the thing that boggles my mind. Like, how do you even do that? Like, that's the only network I know of that was running 24/7 as the sun, you know, rotated around the pizza crust or the the globe, whatever you prefer. But you know what I mean? Like, so they really perfected that. And I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing it was very, very expensive. Very expensive.
Oh, I mean, it was very expensive, and you know, there was investment. At the end of the day, it was pulled, right? But I'm just wondering how they're going to do it going forward, because on the one hand, it's easier for, you know, I'm a one-man show, Johnny Vedmore, and I've managed to get half a salary doing what I'm doing, which for living in Mexico, I can survive on it for now. You know, I might have to do other stuff going forward, but just off the cuff, like, not too bad. But you know, TNT, I think, you know, they had issues on business plan. No one really, they should have done subscriptions. You know, I think that it seems like that's what they might do with Pulse, because I've seen on the website it talks about subscriptions. But you know, they were asking hosts to get sponsors, but you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of like I could just do my own podcast, and I get donations, subscriptions to sponsors, and so it's kind of unique what they're trying to do, though. You don't really see it in any other space, because it's usually just a podcaster doing it for themselves, or maybe they got enough that they got a small team, and that's about it. But 24/7.
So brave, man. They're so brave, and they did it balls out. They, you know, there was some ropey times. Everybody here probably had moments where it was like, you know, there was tech issues all over the place. It's running out of budget. There's you know, people don't really like it, can't get it completely perfect, but it was so much better than what the mainstream was offering still, and they've got all of this money and all this time because there's so much heart in it too. And Mike Ryan will I reckon find a way to fund it, because what he has is an ability to see good investment and then say not to like sell out or go over to the dark side. What seems to be that the reason why original TNT kind of fell apart was because Mike Ryan wouldn't sell out. And that gives me great joy, and it gives me great hope that you know, he's passionate about it. I haven't heard from Mike for a while, but I can tell you that I know he's going to be passionately looking for a way to fund it. And I think the next iteration is just going to be outstanding. You know, we've all been given a rise. You were right by that. I mean, it's just a gift for people like us.
Yeah, I remember like in the early days of coming into this whole thing, like, you know, back when I used to watch Alex Jones all the time and listen to Jeff Rentz and stuff. I remember David Icke coming on, and I think it was on Alex actually. I remember Alex and David having a conversation about the future of citizen journalism and you know, people that were inspired by people like them and what that needed to look like. And he said we need to build a parallel media system. I'm paraphrasing, it's pretty old in my brain, but a parallel media system that is of the same quality, visual quality as the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is going to lead us down a very dangerous path. And you know, in the in the mid to late 2000s, when it was like, you know, you had, you know, older like style live streams. They weren't really podcasts at the time. You know, you had like Project Camelot and Jeff Rents, and you know, this is sort of like the tail end of the Art Bell era. Also, you know, it was just like Ike had it. He knew it, and it's something that stuck with me, and why I've always tried to improve, and why Spore and I wanted to perfect the audio aspect before even thinking about going to video. You know what I mean? It was like, we want to do this as you know, professionally as we can. And that's what Mike did. You know, Mike made that. He took that same ethos and his experience in media and was able to create something that was, you know, you set it up right next to Fox, set TNT up next to Fox on two different televisions, and it is of competitive quality, you know, as far as just the viewing experience, the information, you know, presentation, the way the switching all works, the way the quality of people's cameras and the quality of the broadcast, like it's got all that.
It's got the heartthrob Basil Valentine too.
Yes, of course. Of course.
And you know, here's a story, and I got irked at times with Mike and TNT, but it's growing pains, and I learned. I was at, when was it? Where are we? 2024.
Barely anymore.
It may have been at the beginning of this year in January, where I was in Derek Brose's Greater Reset in Morelia, Mexico. I'm going there next month again, and I was going to do my live show. And, you know, Dan Aston Gregory was in the room, and with Jason Christoph, and I was setting up. And I'm not really good with the tech stuff, but my background was poor, the lighting was poor, and literally the minute I was going to go live, Mike's like, today's show's canceled.
Oh. You didn't pass the visual test,
but you know, I kind of learned, and now when I'm going next month, I haven't bought them yet, but I got to buy those, you know, those portable Rode mics when you do. So I've learned. I've actually, you know, I have to up my game, and so it's kind of just speaking to what you're saying. Like, you know, I learned a lot through TNT.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was a pressure cooker too for me, and I tend to perform well under pressure, and like, you know, waking up Monday through Friday and knowing I have to prep to interview 3 people in 1 hour with a co-host, you know, is just like, that's some fucking pressure to wake up to every day, man. Especially when like you wake up and it changes, or the show happens and it changes, or someone doesn't show up, or you know, someone comes in and completely flips the script on what you thought you were going to talk about. I mean, it made for some really cool learning opportunities and challenges to, you know, become quicker on my toes. And I really, one of the things I really enjoyed is the way that the way that it timed out, you know, with the whole Biden era and the post-COVID era and the lead up to the Trump election this year was like a time when, you know, so-called conspiracy theorists or independent researchers, you know, things we get titled as sometimes, all of a sudden had access to, you know, people that we wouldn't have normally had access to. And, you know, there was this sort of fellow traveler moment between you know, us that out there on the fringes, maybe in some people's eyes, and like mainstream conservatives, or you know, mainstream anyone, you know, socialists, liberals. It didn't really matter. Like, you know, we talked to so many people, and you know, none of that was scripted. None of us were, you know, told, you know, like we talked to Dr. Drew, we talked to Alan Dershowitz, who hung up on me. I mean,
really, what happened? Like he hung up on you? Like what?
Yeah, he's just like, I don't even remember if he said I have to go. I think he just.
Oh wow, that's just.
I mean, did he do part of an interview? Did something piss him off?
It was like his third appearance, man. It was interesting because, like, the one thing I bit my tongue on was, "Hey, dude, remember that time you said, and I quote, they should be held down and a needle thrust into their arm by force," end quote. You know, like I left him alone with that one, but that's sort of my one regret, is not asking him that before he hung up. Yeah, I don't know, he didn't like my line of questioning or something. I really never figured out why.
You're talking about that, like when you talk about it, I mean, for me, as someone who's been like an Epstein researcher for years, that's like kid in a candy shop territory to be able to talk to these guys. And I had a couple experiences where it's like I'm talking with someone who's a balls out proponent and member of like the CIA from the past and pretending not to be anymore. And I'm like, it's like you put this guy in front of me. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm going to just say the, you know, and there was this brilliant, I can't remember the guy's name. There was a one guy who was like, he was just like, the CIA is the greatest thing ever in the world. And it was just, he was so balls out, and it was such a potential operation. And it was like, we laughed so much because we're on opposing sides, and it was ridiculous to be like, you do not put people like us in a room with people like that and allow us to ask him anything. And he realized that when I was starting to be like, when we started off, I mean, I asked him some really, really naughty questions, and the assassination attempts on Trump, when that happened, that was just like, you know, it's just beautiful. You go in, I'm not saying the assassination attempts was beautiful, but you know, the whole thing, when some big news happens like that and you've got access to all these people all of a sudden, the questions write themselves, and the kind of like focus you want to see writes itself. It kind of just all goes into a line where everybody's sharing the experience, and you realize that's a lot about what news is. You're not only trying to find the right questions to ask people for pertinent points, but you're also like in this flow of being mesmerized by events, because events are mesmerizing, and you're sharing that experience with people who have a little bit of knowledge. So being able to ask like military men loads of different questions, you know, about during the assassination attempts, was just, it was mind-blowing for me. All of that was just beautiful experience. I just really enjoyed it, because I got to, I really doubt that there's any other platform that I could do that on, and these people would come and talk to me anyway. So I mean, Mike, Jenny, well done. Yeah, thank you.
I had to tap out after I did 2 years. I completed 2 years, and I initially started with 3 hours a day. That's 3 guests a day, 15 a week. But then, you know, towards the end, they wanted me to do, I was doing 10 hours a week. They wanted me to do 2 guests an hour. So that'd be like 10 to 20 guests a week, where I'm scheduling everyone and preparing the show and doing it. And I'm just like, I can't anymore. I'm out. See you guys. You know, it's too much. It's too much. And, you know, when I was traveling, I went, you know, when we hung out, Hesher in Texas at the Liberty Awards, that was crazy. And then I went to Croatia for 3 months in 2022. Yep. And I was doing my show from 1 to 4 in the morning, Croatia time.
Oh man,
and sleeping till noon, going to the beach, and then doing it again. And then I go to the Ron Paul conference, and then, you know, you're jumping from the weekend, you get to the hotel, you got to run, do your show from you don't know if the Wi-Fi is going to work. And I'm like, and that was lucky. That was before the video, you know, which required more bandwidth. But I just had enough. And then 6 months later, I could see the writing on the wall. Spring of 20, but that was this year, right?
Yeah, man.
A couple months back. Yeah, and so I kind of like March 15, the Ides of March, I threw in the towel, and then what was it, like September, October, TNT? All that.
For me, the end date was August 15, and I think it went for about 6 weeks after that, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a very, very strong feeling that it's going to be back. The pulse will be realized. Mike's even working on another project that sounds pretty exciting too. He's running another project in parallel that's going to be more music and lifestyle oriented. So, there might even be opportunities there to be involved in that sister project to the Pulse. And I think that's a fantastic idea because, the kind of information, the hardcore newsing that we were bringing to TNT and our colleagues were bringing is like, it's heavy duty, and it's hard to market. You know what I mean? Whereas like having a sister channel that is lifestyle oriented and, non uh, polarizing, I suppose, as news is designed to be, is a great idea. So I think, part of the reason that, it's taking a while to get off the ground, if I had to guess, is that they're going to make sure that, that they are not subject to investors and do this in a way where it self-sustains. And I think that would just be a huge win for independent media right there. Like if that could come in and the concept of investors could be wiped away, or at least finding ones that are more amicable to giving the management the control that they deserve after building it, then we're really in a new groove there. So yeah, a lot of people waiting and hoping for that to come through, and I know they're working tirelessly on it.
Yeah. We're not all just black pill either, though. Like when we go on a show, when we're talking on a show like this, or we're talking about our work, we're talking about all of these terrible things all the time. But when we go away, we play instruments, we play games, we are humans, and we really that crossover should be definitely something that we tap into.
Absolutely. I mean, look at like our friend Joseph Arthur. I mean, he would be amazing on that sort of a paradigm.
I look back. I mean, it was hilarious. There was one moment. It was early on 2022, and I was like new to all of this stuff when I started March 2022. I got sick my first day, March 2022, because I'd never done live radio. I got physically sick, literally, and then Jenny tells me like Joseph Arthur needed a guest, and if I could just come on. And then Joseph did this with everyone. He sang a song about you as you came on, and then he told me like I was my number one band since when I was in junior high. I learned to play guitar because of Chris Cornell and Soundgarden. When I was in high school, I would make my hair try to look like Chris Cornell. And he told the story when I was on his show. He was hiking with Chris Cornell, like in the hills, way back when. I mean, just pretty wild. And 5 times August, I hung out with him twice last year in Acapulco and Texas. And he did that song with Joseph Arthur. What's it called? In the Sun or something? And I listened to that.
I know often. The one. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, I think there's exciting things to come, and who knows, man? Maybe they can even convince Hrvoje to come back. I don't know. We'll see.
Part time.
I mean, Simon, you were on a lot of TNT shows there. I mean,
I'd ask him on often. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the potential relaunch of TNT? We need a Simon from Florida show on there, maybe. We may have lost Simon. Simon, if you're with us, go ahead and unmute at any time, man. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that, dude, and really happy that Mike and Jenny and the team over there are working towards that.
Mm-hmm. I just have, in actual fact, I took up a little part-time job over the winter since that's gone, working in a theater, and I saw James Freeman as well, literally just a couple of days ago. I was there. I was in this theater sort of like waiting room, and I was telling 2 old ladies about Epstein trafficking children through Canada.
Of course you were.
And then in the distance, I heard, "That's Johnny Vedmore," and there he was. There he was. There he was. It was beautiful. We had a beautiful hug. It was very nice.
Oh, that's amazing! Wow. Well, I was gonna say I don't run into other TNT hosts here, but I see Ruckus all the time, so I got my own little dose of TNT here.
Yeah, he's beautiful.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, hey, we've been on air a while. I don't want to keep you up too late, Johnny. We're into a major overtime here. I'm really stoked you guys joined us tonight. And that everybody joined us tonight. What an amazing group we had. Really cool discussion. I could go all night with this stuff with you guys, but let me go around the room and get final comments and shout outs to where people can find you. Johnny, over to you first. Tell everybody where to find you, how to follow you, and what you got going, and any final thoughts you got for tonight.
Yeah, got a couple of articles coming up. I've got some really interesting projects I've just been developing in my mind. I've been really in like the future that we're about to see unfold is going to just be shocking to everyone. I think that's what it's meant to be, is fifth generation warfare, and we're going to have a lot of humor through this as well. So I'm going to get humorous soon too. Honest governor. And I listen, thanks for having me on. I mean, that's one of the things about it was about TNT as well, is meeting some wonderful people who I should have met a long time ago. So I'm really happy that we're hooked up and that we talk, because we could see the same future. All of us here who've been talking could see the same future unfold. Our idea of how it will come about or whatnot may be a little bit different, but we're all seeing the same thing happen, and it's going to be crazy. So I hope to work with Khan Disley more over the next 6 months or so, on maybe more on writing stories about different nuclear programs as well. I really want to go into a little bit of mapping out that, because we've got, I think there's a lot going to be happening in the Middle East. We all know there's a lot going to be happening in the Middle East, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, you can get me on Newspaste, man. I've been releasing a load of audit everythings. I go out police auditing. Just it's enjoyable pastime for me to wind down, to go out and follow around the police and cause a little bit of trouble in the city centre. And so I've been doing a lot of that recently. So you can catch out on newspace.com. And thank you. I love you.
Hey, we love you too, man. Thanks so much for being here with us. We'll put links to all your stuff on the show page. There goes Johnny Vedmore. Thank you so much, buddy. Simon from Florida, last call. I think you might have nodded off at this point. Are you there? All right. We're going to put links to Simon from Florida on the show page as well. Hrvoje, over to you, man. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. You made it in for the last boiler room of 2024. Unless a black swan hits us, we'll probably be doing a January 1st show. So you're welcome to join on New Year's Day. That'll be next Wednesday, I believe. But over to you, Save Rounds. Final thoughts. Where can people find you? What are you working on?
I think on New Year's Day we'll probably be going to the zoo with the kids. But
there you go.
Yeah, Geopolitics and Empire .com, the usual podcasts, my paid subscription stuff at the Substack. And I think 2025, I'm going to have to up my game, and I'll be looking to work on new digital products. I'm thinking of, I got to open my merch store, but I'm thinking of doing some courses for sale.
Nice. Let's get together offline and talk about that. I want to share some ideas with you on that.
Yeah, courses and other stuff like that. I got a brain fart now, but was it courses and something else? Maybe even write books. I think it might be time. And so just kind of expanding a bit, but otherwise just living life down here in sunny Mexico. Otherwise, it's I'm happy. I'm content down here. I might be going back home to Croatia for a couple months in the summer. So. I always love hanging out with people. There's a lot of people folks that have been on my podcast, and I might do a mini tour of Europe to go visit some of my past podcast guests. But yeah, looking forward to the insanity.
Oh yeah,
before us.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about for the next year or so, man. I just hope the next 25 days go smoothly, and we can all, take a little breather and laugh at the tomfoolery on X. But clearly there's big stuff, big moves happening on the grand chessboard in the background. So we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about. Hrvoje, thank you so much for being here tonight, man. All right, there he goes. Be sure and follow Geopolitics and Empire on the social medias and the X. All right, on behalf of all of us here in the Boiler Room, thank you for being with us. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for Sunday Wire. That'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, 5 p.m. UK time. Patrick Henningsen be running a Sunday Wire live here on Alternate Current Radio. We'll also be streaming that on his X, which is at 21 Wire. All right, we're out of here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time for another Boiler Room right here on Alternate Current Radio. Peace out.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.